Well, good morning, my Tisa King family. How is everybody today? What a hot day in baseball I had yesterday. We hit our free play, Toronto over 7.5, and Boston got rained out, as did the Pitt Yankee game. So we had two in the Toronto over. Otherwise, I went, what is it, 8-2 plus 14 units. Nice day. Let's check our gold out. Today, we're going to just talk Austrian economics, whatever pops in, prices, markets, whatever. And then we're going to talk our normal college football, baseball, and gold. And gold's been going up nicely ahead of this July 24th. So silver is, let's make sure. Silver is 60.32 and gold 41.49. So it had a nice run up. July 24th is really Thursday. It's really tomorrow night because what's going on? All right. It's really tomorrow night because tomorrow is the 23rd. But when China gets the ball at 6 o'clock, it's the 24th. And so we're going to try to figure out, am I going to look here for the new price, or am I going to have to call up the Shanghai Gold Exchange and see where to look to see what the Shanghai physical price is? I would imagine it's really, I'm not sure. I would think COMEX would have to go up with it, because if I bought a bar at COMEX for 41.49 and then I fly to China, or I have somebody there in China, and I can sell it for 8,000, how much can we buy for 4,000 and sell for 8,000, right? It's a no-brainer. You can't lose. It's a lock, as I call it. So we will see what will happen. My guess is COMEX might come up, but we're not sure. So we'll figure it out as we go. I mean, we'll find it. I mean, we know it's a Shanghai physical price. And either way, we're looking for a much higher gold price. And the key reason is supply. So if we look at gold, physical gold's 200,000 tons. 200,000. Paper gold is 4.3 million tons in the paper world, which keeps, because it's all 100-to-1 leverage bullshit. So they can manipulate the price down. But if you take that 4 million down and we use the 200,000, the price, 20 times conservatively, from 200,000 to 4 million. And silver is 76 million, and there's only 1 million physical, 76 million paper. So yeah, if we really get to a physical price, as China's saying, we will be seeing a huge gold and silver price. And so my advice is, if you're going to buy, I might go buy more silver today or tomorrow. I did sell my half ounce of gold for money, but I can take some of that or just use the credit card and just pound some silver. Not that I don't have silver, but it's a no. It's at 16. It's going to 500. It's just go buy. So we will see. But that's where we're at with it. So again, it should start tomorrow night. And if I see a huge jump tomorrow night, I will come on tomorrow night and tell you the good news. It will go up. It might take a week, maybe less. Maybe it starts at 4,500 and then it runs to 5,000 to 6,000. The U.S. is really powerless to stop it. I mean, there's not anything they can do because, again, remember, this is the world buying gold, not the U.S. This is not a U.S. only thing. This is the world thing. This is China and Russia and India buying it. All the BRICS countries, Saudi Arabia, Dubai, they're all buying gold and silver. They're all dumping dollars. As I said, wars are very expensive, so the dollar is worth nothing. And I've been watching Alligator was Mark McGuire's guest today or yesterday. And, he still doesn't get it when when the government gives you stats, they're not real. You go, well, the CPI, he still doesn't get inflation, but whatever. We already know that. So that's the point. Some guys just don't understand inflation. These are bankers. These are salesmen. They just don't get it. Prices are going to go up. Yeah, well, prices could go up, but that's not inflation. But whatever. So that's where we're at with that. So it should be good times starting tomorrow night, and we'll see. My anticipation is what we saw Ed Steer tell us about the end of the year, these $15,000-$20,000 options for gold. So I'm not sure what happens with the physical price here. So we're still looking for 15 to 20,000 at the end of the year in these options. But if we're going physical, not quite sure what that matters. So we'll see. But we're definitely going to see. Basically, you've killed the money, and all these wars do is kill the money because they're expensive. All the weapons, and you shoot them. Okay, now you got to make more weapons. And as I said, war is a profitable business because you can charge a lot for all the missiles and tanks and planes. But at the end of the day, if the money's not worth anything, it really doesn't matter, does it? Because if the money is worthless, they can't buy anything. So, how long will it take Bill Walsh and Bart Simpson to realize the money's worthless? Right? So, there's gold in Fort Knox. Well, he said that because he knows the money's worthless. And the only answer is gold. That is your only out. That is our lifeboats, and we know that. And I've expressed that for the last 6 years. So we're getting real close to getting a real price, which will be 10 times higher at least. So $10,000, $15,000 gold will be very conservative, and I'd say $2,000 silver will be very conservative, especially with all the need of silver. And they'll say, well, they'll keep the price down because they need it for solar panels and that. No, they won't. It doesn't work like that. You don't keep the price down. You can't. Why aren't they keeping the price of steaks down to $10? Because they can't. And at the end of the day, it's what the market will bear. And the producer wants to make as much money as he can. So he charges $20 for steak because he needs to make more money. And it's the same thing with gold and silver. The silver, they need to charge more money to cover their costs as everything gets more expensive because the dollar's worthless. And so they'll want higher silver. So there's nothing they can do. The market is the market. The market always wins, the physical market. You can fuck around with it the way they've been doing for a while, but at the end of the day, you can't fuck around with it anymore. All right. Hello, Daria. How are you? It's frustrating with Daria because she can't use her VPN a lot because of the war. So I don't hear from her as much as I was, so it's just frustrating. All right. 41.50 gold, 60.28 silver. It's nice to see silver back at 60. Funny how it went down to 52. Now it's back to 60. It was 90, and that's where it's headed, at least in the short period. And the gold 41.50 was what, 5,600. That's where it's heading very soon. All right. Let us look at baseball for yesterday. Huge day yesterday. We start off with Philadelphia under 9. We had Sanchez against Robleski, I believe. Or no, we had Zach Wheeler against Robleski. 2 pitchers with 2.0 ERAs, and we get the game that we expect with 2 pitchers with the 2 ERA, unlike that other game with Schittler and the other Japanese guy in LA, where we expect a 2-1 game, and they give up 5 runs in the 8th inning. Here, 2-1. I assume because it was a tight game, they stuck with their ace relievers and not the guy with the 15 ERA, who's a minor leaguer. So 2-1 Dodgers. We have Philly under 9, and that was a 3-unit play. Our next game, Cleveland. We play Cleveland 5-2. We don't like the Minnesota pitcher. We don't mind the Cleveland pitcher. So Cleveland wins 2 units. The Pittsburgh game is postponed. I assume rain. Toronto, we go Toronto over 7.5 because there's no way 7.5 was a real. The pitchers were not that good. As I said, they got an 8, and Dylan Cease pitched against the Tampa A's, and we should have won that one. We lost with the run in the 9th because the 5.0 ERA pitcher comes in. Well, yesterday we have it over, same 7.5, but it's not Dylan Cease and it's not the Tampa pitcher, and we get 12-2 Tampa. And so we were over 7.5, 2 units, and that was your free play, and that's why we let the line tell it. I mean, it's all pitching, and AI or whoever makes these lines has no fucking idea. This is about the score I thought. That's why, hence, it was a free play. But it was certainly not the correct line should have been 9. Then I don't know if I would have played it, but at 7.5, that was a joke. So Tampa 12-2, free play, another winner. We got Boston going for their 15th win. I got a little nervous because I was at the gym on the bike, and I got ESPN on or whatever. There's like 5 TVs, and it said Ranger Suarez was not the pitcher. They had switched to another pitcher. And I got nervous, like, well, yeah, I know they're on a 14-game win streak, but we're betting on Ranger Suarez. And the game got postponed, luckily, so we didn't lose it because Ranger wasn't pitching. So another postponed game. Atlanta, we play. San Diego wins 8-3. These teams I have no idea. The score, the total was 9.5. They score 11, but we played Atlanta, and they did. I didn't check the box score. Was it the reliever or the starter? Anyway, I didn't like San Diego. I think it was Ferris Bueller was pitching, and he sucks. So anyway, Milwaukee, the Yankees, the Mets 4, Milwaukee nothing. I don't play the game. I don't like the game. Harrison didn't play. I'm still waiting to hear what happened to Mizorowski. I think he went 4 innings, 65 pitches, and that was it, which is very strange. So no play there, but we are noticing the score for today, 4-0, the Jets's. KC 3, the Niners 2. I don't play it. Again, the total was 9. And they play a 5-run game. The Niners don't hit much. KC, sometimes they hit, sometimes they don't. That's the problem with batting averages. The guys, I think KC's got a lot of good hitting, and then they don't score. The Niners don't have a lot of good hitting. So then you see it 3-2, and then you'll see it 10-9. You're like, well, what game am I going to get? Because they're so inconsistent. But they do have good batting averages, so don't know how to figure that. We've got Texas 10, the White Sox 0, but we play the White Sox over 8.5. Again, I thought the line was low and the pitching was weak, and 10-0 Texas. We don't care how we get to 10, just that we get over 8.5, which is what we did. So another winner with Detroit, with the White Sox over 8.5. The Cubs 11, Detroit 2. Valdez sucks, I know. The Cubs didn't have it. I had Detroit over 8, 2 units. Detroit doesn't hit, but I can't bet on Farmer Valdez. He's so bad, and the Cubs guy was giving up a lot of runs. So it was, it was a good over, and the over was 7. Again, it was 7.5, and they scored 13. I didn't know where they got 7.5 from, but very low. So winner Detroit over. Houston 5, Miami 3. I have one of my losers, Miami over 9.5, 5-3 Houston. So this was surprising that they didn't score more. But that happens. So 5-3 and 8, 9.5 we lose. Colorado 8, Washington 7. We don't play it. We like it over, but the over was 13. And I said it's a little bit of a long over to get over. And the first score I saw was 7-7. So I said, oh, there's your over. But it's very hard to bet a 13. I mean, they got the 15, but very hard to bet it. California 5, St. Louis 1. I do play California. St. Louis's pitcher sucked. I didn't play the total. I just played California, and they win. Arizona and Oakland, I play Arizona. They do win 6-5. That's another winner, Arizona. And then Cincinnati, I play a 3-unit. Burns goes their ace, and they win 4-2 over Seattle. Thought about the under also, but I didn't like Seattle's pitcher that much as I like Burns, the Cincinnati pitcher. So that was a 3-unit play. So I end up going 2, 3, 3-1, 4-1, 5-1, 5-2, 6-2, 7-2, 8-2, and it's a plus 14 units. So another huge end of the week. On the 17th, 5 units. On the 18th, 8 units. On the 19th, 4 units. On the 20th, 10 units. And on the 21st, 14 units. So quite the beautiful week. And on the 12th, just before the All-Star game, we had a 17-unit play win. So, yeah, I am really starting to understand what's important, what isn't. And it's hard to get the teams. As I said, the problem with baseball is you have basically 7 teams. So here, Pitt plays the Yankees. I got the Gary Cole Yankees, which are probably an A Yankee team, against Pittsburgh, and Matt Keller with the 5.16 ERA. So there's the Scanes team, and then there's the Ashcraft team, and now the Keller team. So you basically have 5 different teams, and then Cole's a right-hander, so the Pittsburgh left-handed team plays, and then when they face a lefty, the Pitt right-handed team plays. You got 7 different teams. In football, is Mahomes playing, and that's it. You have a few injuries, but basically you got Mahomes, Walker's playing, that's it. And that's where you got to go with it. And I look at it like Pitt's mostly an over team, except for when Scanes is playing. And even when Scanes is playing, depending on who's pitching against them, then I really jump on Scanes because I know Pitt's going to hit, and I know Scanes is going to shut you out. So here, Keller with the 5.16, Pitt's going to hit, but so is the Yankees. So this kind of turns into an over, but then you got Garrett Cole, who's been hurt, came back, 3.93 ERA. We'll have to look at his last 5 and go from there. But that's what I figured is there's not one Yankee team and not one Pitt team. There's 7 of them. And so that's why we look at the pitcher. The pitcher is the whole difference from A to B to C. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you got different pitchers going. So you got really different teams going. So that's why I like football so much. Football, it's Mahomes, it's Joe Burrow, it's Stafford, it's I don't know, Lamar, it's Josh Allen. You don't fuck around with the pitcher. The pitcher's the same pitcher every game. It's once a week. They can gear up for it. These Thursday games are a joke, and really you don't want injuries to your players, but then you play a Thursday game after a Sunday game, which is ridiculous, and then you go fly them to London or Australia, which is even more ridiculous. I think Australia is more West Coast than East Coast. So when the Rams and the Niners play, it's probably just it's an easier shot than if the Giants had to go to Australia. But then they got to fly back, and they're going to be tired, and you're just making it very difficult. And I don't know what the reason is. So is Australia paying them $100 million to host the game? And if so, why? I don't understand what Australia benefits. Nobody's going to go. Nobody cares about it. And you're just going to have, what are you going to have there? You're going to give the tickets away. Is it the TV? The TV pays Australia. I mean, I'm still, as opposed to just having the game in LA or San Francisco. And you're fucking the home team because they don't get the home game. They got to go fly to Australia for it. It tires the players out. It's different turf. That's what they say about, I think, Brazil. They're trying to play on the soccer field, or Mexico. And it's not football. It's not grass for football. So I don't know. It's really stupid idea. I assume they make money like they need money. They don't make money. The NFL is really hurting for money. Okay. Anyway, and the other thing is these ticket prices. I don't know who pays these ticket prices. I'm watching the World Cup, and you see Argentina playing Spain, and they're both in recessions. Their money both is worthless, and yet people are traveling. They're broke, but they're traveling to see a soccer game. It's hysterical. And then the tickets to get in, the travel, the hotel, the food, and the tickets. Now these each family that did that is now looking for breadcrumbs to eat because they don't have any money. So most of the fans, it's ridiculous. Okay. Pitt at the Yankees. This is game 105. We're at almost 11. Keller against Cole. Again, Cole, we're trying to get a feel of. The Yankees are 180 and 9.5. The Yankees hit some, don't hit some. They didn't hit against the Dodgers, that's for sure. It's Keller's. I'm running into this a lot where they win a game, lose a game, win a game, lose two. So they're 2-3 the last 5, 4-5 on the over. The last 6 games, 4 innings, 5 runs, 5 innings, 5 runs, 6 innings, 3, 6-4, 6-5, 6-3. This guy sucks. Gives up a lot of runs. And I don't see him playing the Yankees. So that pushes me to the over right away because we know Pittsburgh hits. Garrett Cole, now he's the thorn in the side. Is he going to throw a shutout, screw her over, or is he not? Well, let's see. Well, he came back May 22nd, and he's pitched. And he's 1-4 his last 5. All 5 have been under, which is screwing us right then. 5-3, they lost 4-1. They won 5-2. They lost 3-0. They lost 2-1. His last 6 innings, 2 runs, 4 innings, 5 runs, 5 innings, 4 runs, 5 innings, 2, 6 innings, 3, 6 innings, 2. So he's going to give up a few runs. So we have a cross, even though he gives up runs. They've been playing under games. Let's take a look. Did he play Pittsburgh? I don't think. He lost to the Dodgers 2-1. Beat Minnie 5-2. Lost to Detroit 5-3. The White Sox killed them 12-2. Cleveland 3-2. Cleveland 5-4. KC 7-0. Tampa Bay 4-2. So they're not hitting for him. The win came against Minnesota 5-2. But he gives up 2-3. So it's more the Yankees aren't hitting, and that's why the under. But it's hard to bet Keller. He gives up a lot of runs. So I'm going to make my play, but that's not going to be a free one. And I'm partially skewed to taking Pitt over a lot, almost automatically, unless Gaines is pitching against, Sanchez for Philly or Zach Wheeler or something like that. It's mostly going to be an over game. I don't have Gaines. Cole's giving up runs, so it's a high number, 9.5. So we'll see. Baltimore, Boston on their 600-game winning streak. Boston minus 109, 9.5 at home. Dean Kramer 4.15 against Bennett, 2.38 ERA. Kramer, we looked at him yesterday and noticed Ranger Suarez is not the pitcher, so we got to be careful. Kramer's pitched he's only pitched 5 games. He's only pitched 3 games since July 1st. And let's see, 6 innings, 1 run, 5 innings, 4 runs, 4 innings, 2 runs. And he goes 80 pitches, 192. You can't count the 2 April games. So a 1, 4, and a 2 against Colonel Bennett from Commando. And the Colonels won his he lost 4 in a row, and then he won 4 in a row. This is why we play streaks. So we go his last 6, 5 innings, 2 runs, then a 6-inning shutout, 6 innings, 1 run, 7 innings, 2 runs, 7 innings shutout, 6 innings shutout. So let's go with Boston as your free play. We'll go 3 units here. Again, they've won 14 in a row, and this Bennett guy, I haven't heard of him until now, but he's lights out, and he's won 4 in a row. One of the reasons probably why they won 14 in a row. Baltimore, Kramer's only pitched 3 games. It's just Boston's hot. We'll play him. There's no point in playing the total in the game. Bennett gives up 1 run a game. You really can't. I mean, when you look at it, I got to go under if I'm going to play it. Kramer, and the game's in Fenway, so 9.5. So yeah, I think the best play is Boston. Even if they weren't on the streak, I'd be playing Boston with this Bennett guy. So we'll go Boston 3 units, play the streak, and that game's it's probably a doubleheader for them too. Then we got 2:00. We got the 49ers at the Chiefs. Mahomes against Joe Montana. Should be a good one. The Niners are favored. Montana, 115, 8.5. We got Roop against Seth Lugo. I think Seth Lugo sucks. Landon Roop. We got on him. He had a big losing streak. Let's see if he got over it. He had lost 8 in a row. And now he finally won his last 2. So the streak stopped. So we can't look at the losing streak. Let's see. His last 6, 4 innings, 4 runs, 6 innings, 2 runs, 6 innings, 2 runs, 2 innings, 6 runs, 8 innings, 1 run, 7 innings, shutout. So you can see what happened. He stopped giving up runs. He played Toronto 10-1, Seattle 7-0. And he's pitched over 100 3 times. Last two were 104.97. It's gone 7 and 8 innings. Toronto didn't hit him. Seattle, they're night and day. You never know what they're going to do. He lost to the Cubs twice, lost to Arizona twice, 3 times. So starting to pitch better his last 2 games. So ZRA, but you can't count the last 2, would be under 4. Seth Lugo, the Sether. And I believe this guy, 3-3 the last 6. 5 of the 6 are over. Although Roop, the last 2 games was doing, a 1 and a shutout. His last 6. 6 innings, 2 runs, 5 innings, 7 runs, 6 innings, 3, 4 innings, 9, 4 innings, 2, 6 innings, 2. So he had a 9 and a 7 in there, and everything's a 2 for the Sether. So the way Rupp's going, Frisco won yesterday. 8.5. How does that seem? If we look at the teams, Kansas City only has 3 good hitters, but sometimes they have 5 good hitters. And the Niners have 6 hitters. So the Niners with 6 hitters, you would think would score more. So based on that, with Root playing well, Lugo, yeah, okay, I'm going to do that. All right, the JETSs go to Milwaukee, and I still don't know where Harrison is. We have Milwaukee 133, 7.5. Scott for the Mets 290, and Henderson for Milwaukee 3. The Mets won 4-0 yesterday. That's what they Milwaukee has. They have hitting. All right, Christian Scott from Coconut Creek, Florida. Went to Florida as a Gator. And he's 5, he's 6-1 his last 7. And they're all unders, 2 pushes. And his last 6, shutout 4, 2, 3, shutout. So he's win some, lose some, but he's usually 4 innings. And Milwaukee, Logan Henderson. McLennan Community College. Well, they're picking up guys from community college. He started April 4th, pitched in May, so he didn't pitch the rest of April. Didn't pitch in June, and now he pitched his last 2 in July, which is why you never heard of the guy. If we look at his last 6, although it doesn't mean anything, 2 runs, 1, shutout, 3, 1. Pretty good pitcher. What does he go? He goes 70 pitches, 5-inning pitcher. So we're going to get bullpen. We don't know what that means. Is it the A bullpen or the Z bullpen? Are we going to be able to score or not on them? If we look at him, he gave up 1 run on 5 innings, and then they won 2-1 against Miami. So the bullpen was good. He gave up 3 runs the game before, and they won 8-4. So the bullpen for Milwaukee seems pretty good. The JETSs, I don't know. So Scott, 4-inning guy, but hasn't pitched a lot against Henderson, who's also been kind of injured. So you're going to get a lot of bullpen. Milwaukee 133, 7.5. But it was a 4-0 game yesterday. I just have the feeling it's going to go over today, but I don't know. I don't know what we're getting in the bullpen, so I'm going to leave it alone. But I think it's an over game, only because it's 7.5. You got a 3 ERA and a 2.9 ERA, but these are guys that pitch 4 or 5 games, go 5 innings. So then you're relying on the bullpen. And again, you don't know what you're getting, so I can't trust him. Washington goes to Colorado. This was a high scoring game yesterday, 8-7. Washington 136-11.5. Cavelli against Hughes. Cavelli 3.81. And he is 2-3 his last 5. His last 6, 2 innings, 2 runs, 6 innings, 2 runs, 7 innings, 1 run, 2 innings, 4 runs, 6 innings, 2 runs, 6 innings, 2 runs. So it's kind of crazy with the couple of 2-inning games. And he started 68 pitches and 63. One he had 3 walks, the other had 2 walks. So he's not really good, Cavalier. And that leaves us with Gabriel Hughes from Gonzaga. I thought they just played basketball there. He's 1-2. One over and a couple unders. 3 innings shutouts, 6 innings, 3, 5 innings, 2. And he's gone 80 pitches the last 2 games. So he's not bad. Cavalier is not that good. The total of 11.5. I'm going to pass. I never know what to do with Washington and Colorado. When you think they're going to go over, don't. I'm going to leave this on. Again, this is another, I think it's over, but I think at 11.5, it's too high. Oakland against Arizona. Arizona 123-9. Jump 3.81 against M. Kelly 5.23. This one, I'm looking at the over of 9 superficially, but let's dig in. And the jumper has lost his last 5 games, which leads me to betting on Arizona real quickly. 7 innings shutout, 5 innings shutout, 4 innings 5, 3 innings 6, 5 innings 1, 3 innings 4. The jumper is terrible. Merrill Kelly went to Arizona State, a Reggie guy. So he's 2 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He lost 6 in a row, 1, 2, lost. He's 2-7 his last 9, and they're all mostly under and 1 over. And in the 6, he gives up 6 runs. How could he go under? 5 innings, 6 runs, 6 innings, 3, 6 innings, 5, 5 innings, 2, 7 innings, 1, and 5 innings, 3. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. Here, I think the total's about right, but I think it's doable. Can't really bet Kelly lost, Jump. They both lost a lot, so they give up a lot of runs. So can't do that. Cincinnati, Seattle. Seattle 149-8. We got Brady Singer, who sucks, 4.59 against John Hancock with a 3.18 ERA. The Brader. He lost 4 in a row, and then he finally won a game last time. Mostly unders. His last 6, 5 innings, 1 run, 7 innings shutout, 4 innings, 5 runs, 5 innings, 3 runs, 7 innings, 1 run, 7 innings, 2 runs. So sometimes he's good. Let's see, his 5-3 came against Pittsburgh and Baltimore. Although he lost to Philly 1-0. That was pretty good. Gave up 1 run to Philly. And John Hancock. He's 6-3 his last 9. And his last 6 gave up 1 run, 6 runs, 5 runs, 1 run, 7 innings shutout, an inning and 2/3 shutout. We pitched 19 pitches. I don't know what that is. So he's been pretty good. It was a 1-2 shutout, 2-1, then the 6 and the 5, then 1-0-0. All right. Don't love it. St. Louis at California. We got California 125, 8.5. We got Dobbins, not J.K. Dobbins from Ohio State, some other Dobbins, 623 against Detmers with the 418. This totals 8.5. You're just screaming to go over. And I can't see J.K. Dobbins really. Detmers I can see. Detmers won 4 in a row, lost 3 in a row. His last 6, 7 innings shutout, 6 innings, 5 runs, 5 innings, 2 runs, 5 innings, 5 runs, 4 innings, 5 runs, and a 6 inning shutout. So good luck figuring that out. So he's given up 5 runs, 3 out of his last 5 games, and then a 2, and then a shutout. And he shut out Detroit. He lost 2-1 with the 6 inning shutout. The other 5 was against Boston. He lost 5-2. Seems like a pretty good bullpen that California has. So we don't know. We can't see Dobbins 623. No page was found. Detmers 418. California is terrible, 4161. So we don't know Dobbins. We can't see. It's probably an over game, but I can't play it because I don't know what this Dobbins is. Never heard of him. So I have to pass on that. Maybe an over, but I'm not going to play it. Minnesota at Cleveland. Bailey over 4-3-2 against Sassoni 4-5-5. Cleveland a 126 and a total of 8, which screaming to go over. The Bailey 4-2 his last 6. And in that time, he pitched a 9 inning shutout, 89 pitches. Who was that against? Miami. Wow. Miami can hit sometimes. Then a 5-inning 3-run, 5-inning 4-run, 4. He comes down to earth. 4-inning 8-run, 5-inning 1-run, 5-inning 2. So the Balin. And let's see, Slade Sassoni from Miami. Was he Cuban? The Slater? He's 2-5 his last 7. A lot of unders. 3, 6, 2 runs, 1 run, 2 runs, shutout, 5-3. And he goes about 5 or 6 innings. I don't know what you're going to do. Cleveland's got a good bullpen. It's hard to go over with Cleveland. I'm going to pass on this game too. I just don't like the pitching. A small inclination on the over at 8, but again, it's, if it's 2-0, you're not getting help from the Cleveland bullpen to get over. I'm not sure about Minnesota. Here we go. The Dodgers against Philly. The Dodgers 117, 9.5. Lauer for the Dodgers 4.80 against Aaron Nola 5.68. I think this is screaming over. And Lauer's won his last 2, 4, 6, 7. A lot of overs there. 4 innings, 2 runs, 5 innings, 2 runs, 6 innings, 3 runs, 6 innings shutout, 6 innings, 3, 6 innings, 3. So he gives up a lot of runs, but they score. He shut out Minnesota. 3 runs against Oakland. They won 9-4, and 3 runs against Colorado. They won 8-7 and 11. Pittsburgh, they beat 12-3. He gave up 2 runs there. The Eagles, Aaron Nola. He's lost his last 4. His last 6 games, 3 runs, 2 runs, 8, 3, 2, 3. All right, we're going with the Dodgers. I'll give you that as a free play. 2 units. Lauer's hot, Nola's not, basically. And the Dodgers, Philly beat them yesterday 2-1, I think. Maybe the Dodgers won. It was a low scoring game. The Dodgers play with that batting order. It's surprising how many times they get shut out or play a 1-0 or 2-1 game. So even this is the thing with batting averages. And then sometimes the guy hitting 212 goes 3 for 4 with knocks in 6 RBIs. You're like, what the hell? So that's why it's really hard when you look at the batting and you look at batting averages. It's just an assumption that they're probably, the guy's hitting 280. I don't know what you're really looking at, that he's a good hitter, but I'm not like saying, well, he's going to go 2 for 4 in the game. He's still going to go 1 for 3, which is 333, and it doesn't mean anything. Does he drive in runs or so? That's why I hate the walk. A walk's as good as a hit. No, it's not. Not when you got second and third in the bottom of the ninth. A walk is not as good as a hit. Hit drives in 2. A walk doesn't drive in anybody. Sets up a fielder's choice. Oh, Max Fried's made his return. Second game of the doubleheader, Pitt at the Yankees. Yankees 125, 7.5. Bob Chandler from the Packers, 4.85 against Max Fried, 3.25. I'm glad to see Max back. Bubba Chandler, I think he was going to pitch yesterday. And not much. And 2, 4, 6. 2 runs, 1, 5, 4, and 2. The question is, do the Yankees hit? Total on the game, 7.5. Max Fried, are you going to hit Max? First game back. The Max are well, he hasn't pitched since the 13th. So we really, his last 6 was 5 runs, shutout, 3 runs, 5 runs, 3 runs. That's probably when he went on the IL or the IR. I love how they changed the IR to the IL. Well, he's not on injured reserve. He's on the injured list now. It's like, why do you guys keep changing all the names? The line to gain. You watch an old football game, there's no such thing as a line to gain. Did he get the first down or not? So I always wonder why it's a socialist thing. Just like junior. I mean, nobody cared, unless it was Ken Griffey Jr., because Ken Griffey was playing. Nobody cares about, is he a junior or a senior or the third or whatever. So what do we do with Fried? What's he going to do? Is he going to go? We see what he did in May. It's now July. We got to watch this game because we don't know what to do. They should hit Fried, but we'll let it go. And Tampa, Toronto, this is 7:00. Toronto 106.8. We got Jax Car Wash 355 against Bobby Fischer, the chess player, with the 0 here. Must be a bullpen guy. Griffin Jax Car Wash is 4-2 his last 6. He seems to go 5 innings almost every game. His last 6, 2 runs, 3, 3, 1, and a 7. So he's pretty bad. But they won the last 2 games, Tampa over Toronto. Bobby Fischer from Texas. He's lost his last 5, and he's a bullpen guy. So what you going to do with that? He's going to go 1 inning. He does not have a 0 ERA. It's more like 3 or 4. And Jax. So this is a game I think we just watched. Tampa Bay's been winning. It's been going against Dylan Cease. It was 7-1. It did go over. Yesterday was a high-scoring game. I think Tampa won 10-1. Bobby Fischer here. You've got you got Bobby going his one inning and then what? So again, we got to watch. And Baltimore, Boston, Bradish. I thought Bradish is pitching. Oh, it's Kramer. Bradish was going yesterday. Okay. Bradish against TBD, so we got to leave this alone. Even if Boston wins and the win streak's going, we don't know the pitcher, so we will get back to Boston tomorrow if they win the first game. San Diego and Atlanta. We got Atlanta 110, 8.5. We got Michael King for San Diego, 3.35 against Martin Perez, 3.75. San Diego won 8-3 yesterday. Michael King is 2-3 his last 5, 4 unders, then 2 overs his last 6. 3 runs shutout, 4 runs, 2 runs, 1 run, 1 run in 5 and 6 innings. Doesn't mean a whole lot. Perez. He's 4-3 his last 7. He won 4, then he lost 3. A lot of unders. His last 6, 3 runs, 1 run, 1 run, 3 runs, 4 runs, 5 runs. So he's getting tired or something. So I don't know. It was 8-3 San Diego. I'm not taking Atlanta to win. I don't know either. 3.75, 3.35 is about right. Perez is going. San Diego, Xavier Bogaerts, and the other guy can't hit. I'm going to leave this game alone too. I just don't like the pitchers. The White Sox and Texas. We got White Sox 105, 8.5. Andrew K 4.29 against the Alexander with a 0. Anthony K went to UConn. And he's 2-4 his last 6. Boy, these pitchers, they're all like scrambled eggs. They win 2, they lose 2, they win 3, they lose 3. Let's see. 4 innings, 4 runs, 6 innings shutout, 3 innings, 5, 4 innings, 1, 5 innings, 2, 4 innings, 2. So Kay had that one game with 5. He had a game with 4, but his last 3 were pretty good. He gave up the 5 to Kansas City, and he lost to Boston with 2 and a 2 to Toronto. They did win. Tyler Alexander, TCU guy, and he had won 5 in a row and then lost the last one to Atlanta. He's gone over 6 games in a row, and he's a bullpen guy. Okay, so we ignore that. So we got a TCU bullpen guy for Texas against K for the White Sox. Total of 8.5. I don't like this game either. The Tigers against the Cubbies. The Cubs 119 and 8. Montero, who sucks, 3.35. Venezuela guy. I don't know where the Tigers get these pitchers. He's 1, 2, 4, 5. He's 6-1 his last 7. They've all gone under. And he's more of a bullpen guy now. 7 innings shutout, 2 innings shutout, 3 innings shutout, 1 inning shutout, 3 innings, 3 runs, 3 innings shutout. He goes about 30, 40 pitches. So I don't know what you make. He's been a starter, but now he's like the long reliever against Colin Ray from Indiana State. He's a Larry Bird guy. And he's 2-6 his last 8. 4 innings, 4 runs, 5 innings shutout, 5 innings, 1 run, 5 innings, 2 runs, 5 innings, 3 runs, 6 innings, 4 runs. So it's 4-0-1, 2-3-4. So he does give up something. Montero will go 3 innings, then you get the bullpen. and you don't know what you're getting with the Tiger bullpen, if it's good or bad. And it's an 8. And I don't know. The Cubs killed them yesterday, 8. It's which Detroit team shows up, because you have no idea. They're 47-54. The Cubs 57-44. All right, I'm gonna play that way. So no matter what, if I go over, it'll be under. If I go under, it'll be over. I was shocked I won yesterday's. All right. Miami at Houston. Sandy Alcantara from Miami, 3.90. He's been pitching pretty good. Jack Lambert for the Houstons, they're 3.03. Houston's a 113 favorite and 8. This smells like an under. Alcantara. And he had won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in a row, and now he's lost his last 2. A lot of overs, and the last 3 have been unders. His last 6 gave up 4 runs, 1, 5, 1, 3, 1. Against Jack Lambert. Jack's 4-2 his last 6. And he's got 7 innings, 1 run, 4 innings, 2 runs, 5 innings, 4 runs, 5 innings shutout, 6 innings, 1 run, 6 innings run. So it's basically 2-1-2, 1-2, the 4, and then 0-1-1. All right. And that'd be it. Tough day, but you don't bet to bet. You bet because of purpose. And so what we've got is Boston, your 3 unit on their 14-game winning streak, and the Dodgers 2 units on their pitcher's hot and the other pitcher's not. They play Philadelphia. And again, you got to be leery of Philly. They're a very good team, especially at home. They did win. I believe they won with Suarez. Or they lost with Suarez, and then they won with. No, maybe they won with Suarez. They won with Wheeler, or maybe they won with Suarez and lost with Wheeler. It's too much for me. No, they won with Suarez, and then they won with Wheeler under yesterday. And now we got them again. So we played Philly. They did win against the Dodgers. That was definitely Suarez or Sanchez. Sorry. Then Wheeler under. It was 2-1. They lost, but it was 2-1. And now we got Aaron Nola, and so we're running to the Dodgers like, no, not Aaron Nola. There's some pretty good pitching staffs. Milwaukee with the killer pitching staff of Mizorowski and Harrison. The other guy went on IR, who is a pretty good pitcher. So they're having injury problems. Harrison missed his start, and Mizorowski only pitched 4 innings, 60 pitches, which he normally goes 100. So not sure what happened to him. Could have been a blister, could have been a slight growing pull. Nothing major, because I haven't seen anything. Oh, he hurt his knee, hurt his arm. I haven't seen any of that. So it might have been a minor little injury. We'll see. But he might miss his next start, or maybe not. But he took like 10 days off. He didn't pitch that All-Star weekend before. Then we come back, and then he didn't pitch last weekend when you would have thought until Monday. So he had a good 10 days off, which is smart to give him a rest. But then the 65 pitches is very curious for him. All right. So that'd be baseball. College football, we looked at where I'm grading the teams A through Z. I went through that yesterday. Let's go into Gray Sports Almanac, and we'll take a look at their different things that they rank them. Now here's something on Lane Kiffin. It's just hysterical. 2007 coach of the Raiders. They go 4-12. 2008 they go 1-3 and he quits. Goes to Tennessee, goes 7-6 and he quits. 2010 USC 8-5, 10-2, 7-6, 3-2, and he quits again. Then he goes 2000. So then he goes to Alabama as their OC, and then they go to Florida Atlantic, 11-3, 5-7, 10-3. Then he goes to Ole Miss, 5-5, 10-3, 8-5, 11-2, 10-3, and 11-1. In the NFL, he's 5-15, 14 years of college, 116, 53. He's a mystery man that he can't hold a job, basically. Oakland, his dad was the defensive coordinator, and he sucked there. And then, or no, he was at USC. Tennessee 1 year, and then he runs to USC. Then he gets fired at SC, Alabama offensive coordinator, and then goes to Florida Atlantic because nobody wants to hire the bum. Then he goes to Ole Miss because nobody wants to hire the bum. And then finally, he ends up at LSU. Good luck there. All right, let's see. I'm not even going to get into the Heisman watch. My Heisman watch and this is totally different. Arch Manning is nowhere the number one Heisman. Trinidad and Tobago, no. Jeremiah Smith at Ohio State, no. Dante Moore, no way. Julian Sayin, no, because Jeremiah Smith's going to take a lot of his votes. Ohio State. CJ Carr, Notre Dame. Sam Levitt at LSU, maybe. Menshaw at Miami, absolutely. But he's going to get hurt by Tony and Fletcher at Miami. And then Josh Hoover at Indiana, they'll probably go undefeated again. All right, let's see. Most impactful quarterback transfers. So this is what we do. How are you? I'm fine. I hope you're well. Most important, impactful quarterback transfers. Menshaw goes to Miami. Sam Levitt to LSU. Mestermaker, which I think is the most important, goes to Oklahoma State. Josh Hoover, TCU to Indy. Byron Brown, South Florida Auburn. I don't know. I don't agree with DJ Langway, Florida to Baylor. He stinks. Lincoln Kineholtz, Ohio State to Louisville. He's the third string quarterback at Ohio State, this guy. So we don't even know if he's any good. Rocco Brack goes with the coach, Iowa State to Penn State. I think Penn State's a very good sleeper this year. Austin Simmons, Ole Miss to Missouri. He lost his job to Trinidad and Tobago. Ethan Grunkmeyer, Penn State to Virginia Tech. He followed the coach. He's not good. Aiden Child, Michigan State, North. He stinks. Ashton Daniels, Auburn to Florida State. He stinks. Bo Pribula, Missouri to Virginia. Surprising that he would leave Missouri. Dylan Raiola, he's terrible. He's going to Oregon to be the backup. Very strange move. And Brendan Sarsby, no, sorry. He's gone. He's in the NFL. Most important, impactful non-quarterback transfers. Cam Coleman, wide receiver, Auburn to Texas. Jordan Seaton, offensive tackle, Colorado to LSU. Yeah, I don't care about linemen. Damon Wilson, edge from Missouri to Miami. Now that's good news. They had to replace Reuben Bain. Chaz Coleman, edge, Penn State to Tennessee. Interesting, he didn't go to Virginia Tech with his coach, but he goes to Tennessee. Very interesting. Princewell, Human Milan, edge from Ole Miss to LSU. Kai Peretz, safety from Minnesota to Oregon. Caleb Hawkins, running back, North Texas to Oak State. Well, everybody from North Texas went to Oklahoma State. Let's see. Here's one. Mateen Iberogba, defensive lineman, went from Wake Forest to Texas Tech. And the only reason I say it's because Texas Tech can pay a lot of money, so he must be pretty good. But I don't like those moves. I think this guy who's at Wake Forest should stay at Wake Forest. I think if he does that, I think he needs to sit out a year. I don't like how they just free agent across. They're not free agents. They're not pros. And I think it's terrible. Those are the kind of transactions I think are terrible. Nick Mars from Michigan State to Indiana. He's very good. James Smith, Alabama to Ohio State. That's really weird. You'd go from Alabama to Ohio State. Curious Kearney, offensive tackle, LSU to Ole Miss. He must not like the coach. Lance Hurd, offensive tackle, Tennessee to Kentucky. Isaiah Horton, wide receiver, Alabama, goes to A&M. That's really weird because they run a pretty good offense at Alabama. You probably wouldn't want to leave it for A&M. Wide receiver, Singleton, a wide receiver, Auburn to Florida. I don't get it. He was a former Georgia Tech standout. Oh, so the Georgia Tech offensive coordinator is now the Florida offensive coordinator. That's why he transferred. Hollywood Smothers, running back, NC State, goes to Texas. After first committing to Alabama, flipped to Texas to bring explosive playmaking ability. Okay. I think we talked about the coaching changes. This is Lindy's top 25. He starts out with Oregon. I disagree. They're one. Texas, possibly. They have a really hard schedule, possibly top 5. Ohio State, yeah. Notre Dame, probably. Indiana should be 1 or 2, not 5. Georgia, we hope they play better. Miami. So really, I would go Indiana, Ohio State, Miami, and we'll see about Georgia as my top 3. Oregon, I don't see it. Texas, I don't see it. Notre Dame, I don't see it. So Miami's probably 1 with the quarterback as Indiana and Ohio State. So those 3 are like 1, 2, 3. Georgia, we hope Georgia gets better. So we'll see. Then LSU, we'll see with Lane Kiffin. Ole Miss, I don't buy if Lane Kiffin's not there, Ole Miss is any good because I don't buy Trinidad and Tobago. USC, no defense. Alabama, I don't know whether they don't have the defense either. A&M, Reed's not good. Oklahoma, they don't have the offense. Texas Tech, we'll see. Well, we'll see. They have to replace all the defense that they bought last year, and we'll see what they got. BYU is always good defense. Michigan, I think Whittingham they'll have a very tough defense. Houston, good defense. Louisville, I don't buy Louisville that high. Washington, the quarterback I don't like. I liked him last year, but he didn't really do much. And then he wanted to get out of there, and he came back. SMU, okay. Iowa, we don't know who the quarterback is. Utah, I think Utah will be much higher than 22. Penn State has a chance with I like the Iowa State coach. Clemson, I don't buy. And Florida, I certainly don't buy. Those are their top 25. So you can start focusing on the A teams, which I just read you. The Z teams are crap teams. I don't agree at all with the All-American Dante Moore and Julian saying at all. That's Menshaw is much better than Dante Moore. Let's see, the defensive team, home Texas Tech, and Pollock, Texas Tech. So I don't see Texas Tech with the great defense they had last year. That's what we'll have to see. I don't want to get into the positions, but you know my take on the quarterbacks. I think Menshaw and Hoover are the best two. Saying will be okay. I like Maya via UCLA, but I don't like Dante Moore. Saying will be okay. I don't like Arch Manning, Trinidad and Tobago. Carr's good. Levitt's good. Mateer is terrible. Maya via I like. Williams at Washington, I don't know. Didn't show up in a lot of games. Hoover is very much better than 12th. Manoa, Fajita, and Bryce Underwear, you've got to be kidding. Perfect recruit. I mean, this is insane. This guy sucks. Gunnar Stockton, Byron Brown, Devin Dampier's top 5. The Utah quarterback. Sellers will be much better with the Bryles, the offensive coordinator. Kevin Jennings, the guy at Cal, I don't know. Bailey, NC State. Marcel Reed, A&M really choked down the stretch. Rocco Beck is much better than 24. And Beer Bachmeyer from BYU. So I don't want to get too much into that. Hello, can you behold the Emperor teaser? Yes, call me Caesar. So what I've done is I went through all the conferences the last week, right out of the Gray Sports Almanac, and then we started grading the teams A through Z where we could. We noticed there's a lot of new quarterbacks that haven't played before, some that have only played a few games, and then some that are really strong ones. And I just read you most of the strong quarterbacks, although I disagree with the order. Arch Manning, yeah, I don't think so. I don't go by the name. I go by the talent on the field. So, again, week 1, we went through the games yesterday. We have North Carolina, TCU. TCU 6.5, 49. So I got to put a grade on it, and I got to fill in the defense. I'll do that probably today. San Jose State, USC 35 and a total of 58. They'll have the 35 covered by halftime. NC State, Virginia 5.5, 54. That's a tough one. That could be a tease the dog game. New Mexico State, Florida State. I'm not buying Florida State laying 30 to anybody, and a total of 53. So I don't know. New Mexico State stinks, but I don't buy Florida State yet. Maybe I will. They got to prove it to me. Hawaii and Stanford. Stanford 3.5, 50. Absolutely love Hawaii here. This is a joke. Stanford's terrible. They're a Z team. Hawaii is a very good team, good quarterback. They're not going to lose this game. Memphis and Vegas. Vegas, it looks like 6.5, something like that. Total of 59 to Memphis. Memphis, very good. They got the Marshall Southern Miss coach is now there. Very good coach. And that's really the key. Vegas has the old Mississippi State coach, Dan Mullen. You're going to see a lot of points in this game also. And then the last two games, which I didn't realize, was North Dakota State 7.5, 48 over Jacksonville State. North Dakota State is now Division I in the, I think they're in Conference USA. And Sacramento State plays Eastern Michigan, and this is the MAC. This is a MAC game. Why Sacramento State joined the MAC instead of the Mountain West or something? I don't know. Eastern is 7.5, 52. Eastern is supposed to be very good this year. Other key games. Let's see. Michigan State 10.5, 50 against Toledo. Good luck with that one, Michigan State. Now the next week, USC 23, 51 against Fresno State, but that's a big difference than San Jose State. Miami 22, 50 against Stanford. Bet it early because after Hawaii beat Stanford, Miami's that line's going to go up to 28. James Madison Liberty. James Madison 650. They're the king of the little colleges, James Madison. Indiana 40-55 against North Texas. This would have been a hell of a game last year, but North Texas is gone. Their coach and their best player went to Oklahoma State. So look for Indiana to roll. Alabama 26-54 to East Carolina. They normally roll tide the first week against these easier teams. Houston 18-51 over Oregon State. Ohio State 50-56 total against Ball State. The big number. South Carolina 34-52 to Kent State. I don't have Kent State. I think they're the Z. If they're the Z team, then South Carolina's going to kill them. Penn State 23-54 against Marshall. Penn State. I like the Iowa State coach and the quarterback a lot. I don't know if they'll blow them out, but they might. He'll want a big win, but he's not a big blowout type of coach. He's a good upset coach. Like watch him against Ohio State or Oregon this year. He knows how to win those games, but as a big favorite, I'm not sure. Duke and Tulane. Duke 9.5, 53. Tulane. Mensah went to Duke and then went to Miami, and I don't know. They keep losing their coach, Tulane. Texas 31-59 to Texas State. Who's my number one quarterback? Mensah from Miami, I believe. I like him number one. Hoover from Texas, TCU's now at Indiana. I like him a lot. Devin Dampier at Utah. I like him a lot. Those three, I would say, are the top three. Nobody named Manning. Oregon 24-52 against Boise in a good game. We'll see how good Boise is. Oak State 12-61 to Tulsa. Oak State's going to just put up 60 points in this one. Now that they got the new coach and the quarterback and the run and shoot, look for Oak State to be an over a lot in the Big 12, especially Baylor, TCU, some of those games. Let's see. Michigan 26-47 against Western Michigan. Michigan will have that great Utah defense. I'm not quite sure about he likes to run the ball, so we'll see that. So we'll probably play Michigan under a lot, especially if Underwear's the quarterback. He's terrible. Although he's probably giving them shorter passes, quick passes, that the other coach couldn't do it. LSU, Clemson, LSU 11-50. I don't know Clemson, a new quarterback this year. LSU has Lane Kiffin, and they brought in Levitt from Arizona State, who's the dynamite quarterback. He's also a very good quarterback. Florida 26-57 against Florida Atlantic. Florida with a new coach, new quarterback. I don't know. They can't be worse, but I did not like DJ Langway. I thought he was terrible. A lot of interceptions. Vegas 1.5, 58 over Hawaii. Week 2. Now they both play week 1. This is a week 2 game. Hawaii, the home dog, is going to be rough, and the 58 total. I'd say get that in now. Over 52. That'll be a halftime score. Cal 1.5, 53 against UCLA. I like UCLA as the live dog there. The new coach. I think they have a new quarterback. We'll have to see. We'll keep an eye. This is a James Madison coach, and we know how good James Madison coaches are. So they should be a live dog, but it might be a little early, being week 1. Washington 21-50 against Washington State. Washington should kill them. Washington State's terrible. Notre Dame 20-47 to Wisconsin at Notre Dame. You got to like Notre Dame there with Carr back for a second year. And the last game, 9-6, Old Mississippi, 6.5, 55 to Louisville. So keep that in mind. So that's week 1A and 1B. So we talked about some of the players. I'm looking at like top defensive end, top defensive tackles. So Holmes went to Texas Tech, which we talked about. And they got another guy. So they got 2 good defensive ends, supposedly Texas Tech. No defensive ends. Linebackers, nothing. They got 2 inside linebackers. So we would think Texas Tech will have this great defense. See, they surprised us because they're never a defensive team. All of a sudden last year, they were one of the top defensive teams. You can bet them under because they were like Georgia, wouldn't give up points. So they had to replace a lot, but it looks like they got 4 good defensive players. Let's check their safeties out. They got a good cornerback. And that's it. So they got 5 guys on his top quarterback, top defensive players list. The quarterback's fine. Their backup from last year's, he's going to be good. At Texas Tech, Mahomes and everybody else who went there were real good quarterbacks. You go to Baylor, Texas Tech, TCU, Kansas. You're probably a really good quarterback. Oklahoma State has the best one. That's why they're always pass happy. But I'd say Devin Dampier at Utah is outstanding. Very hard, very good runner, but he can throw the ball. So he's not just Lamar who can only run and can't throw. You actually have a guy who's a good quarterback. And he runs well. So look for Utah to be a surprise. Well, they're not a surprise. They're a top 10 team. I like this unit ranking. So he takes like the top backfields, offensive line. So he's got Ole Miss number 1. I don't. Miami, I got number 1. Ohio State's up there. Georgia, Oregon, Notre Dame, Utah, USC. So USC, they'll score 100 points a game. They just can't play defense. Top receivers, Ohio State, Texas, Oregon, Miami. So it gets redundant, and it's obvious. Indiana, top offensive line, Indiana. That's what I look for. Top backfield would be quarterback and running back. So again, that's got to be Miami. So you kind of look at these and you get a feel for who the real good teams are, right? It's Ole Miss, it's Miami, it's LSU, it's Oregon, Notre Dame. So you start, I'm going to bet those teams. They have the best players, which is what you want. Texas Tech, they don't have the quarterback, good offensive line, and they don't have receivers. Defensive units, Oregon, Texas, Georgia, Miami, LSU, Michigan, Indiana, Ohio State, USC, really, Alabama. So you're kind of looking at Oregon maybe as an under team, Georgia, hopefully an under team, Texas. Teams like Miami will just be A teams. Michigan will be an under team, Indiana an A team, Ohio State. Linebackers, Georgia, there we go, Indiana, USC. So USC might be dynamite this year. Notre Dame, LSU, Miami. Mohamed Torrey has a rare 8th year of eligibility for the Hurricane. What the fuck is that? He had 2 knee injuries. So he redshirted and had 2 knee injuries. So he's playing 5 years, really. He's going to make a career of college football. Texas Tech, good linebackers, good defensive back. I'm not seeing Texas Tech defensive lines. They are a linebacker, and I don't see them as a defensive back college. So that's what you're looking for, because you want to see who am I going to bet under, who's the A teams, and it's the key. But this is bias, with his pick of Dante Moore as the top quarterback. You realize he's an idiot like these gold guys are. So I watched this thing. I think I was telling you about, maybe not. Thank you, Behold. Yeah, I mean, I don't dislike Arch Manning because he's Arch Manning. I mean, he didn't do anything. I pointed that out to Alex yesterday. He didn't do anything against Georgia, didn't do anything against Ohio State, and he didn't do anything in the A&M game. He did very little, and you can't count the Michigan game. So that's what I look at is how do they do in the big games? And he doesn't show up. 7 against Ohio State, 10 against Georgia, 20 or against Oklahoma. I think they got 20 points, which I don't think he had anything to do with. So that's what you're kind of looking at. What he does against Syracuse or Stanford doesn't. That's the problem. Like Michigan in the bowl game, they didn't play half their guys. So again, we want to look at the defense. Who's the Texas Tech this year with this stud defense? And it might be Texas Tech because they bought all their players, but it's a good comment. I think Miami will be potent. Georgia looks like they'll be potent. Ohio State, I'm not sure. Notre Dame, I'm not sure. It looks like USC might have one, but curious. Oregon. Oregon, I don't know. I don't really like Oregon's coach. He was the defensive coordinator at Georgia 5 years ago, and he chokes in all the big games. He's a terrible game coach in a big game. So I don't know what to do with him, but I don't buy Oregon. I don't think they can beat Indiana or Ohio State, tell you the truth. Michigan's defense is going to be strong because of Whittingham. BYU and Utah's defense will be strong. So basically, Whittingham left Utah for Michigan. They'll have a good defense. And the defensive coordinator from Utah is now the head coach. They'll still have a strong defense. And with Dampier. So Utah is being way undervalued here. And I think Oregon's being way overvalued. So that's kind of the games for the first couple of weeks. NFL is a little early to check. They don't start till September. I've talked about the week one lines already. I don't think we'll have much line movement, but maybe this weekend we'll talk NFL. Again, Thursday night, gold will go physical in China, and we'll see the reaction. We're already seeing gold run up. Let's see what it's at now. See, we're not really getting that 10 o'clock drop like we used to. We got a run up just before 10. You thought it's going to drop 41.57. So we're into the 41s again. I was waiting for that for 3 months. So it's a good sign it's starting to move. And then silver back over 60. So it's a real good sign. Gold's moving. Who texted me? So there was I was watching this video. I'm going to turn a little economics, or if you have more sports questions, feel free. So first I was watching Mark McGuire and Alligator McLeod today. Nothing we don't know. It's the same gold. Alligator, I don't know where he's at. There was this thing I was watching. We were the iron. What do they call it? We were like the steel capital, but they called it the Rust Belt or something. So it's Buffalo, Cleveland, Detroit, Flint, Allentown or Allen Park or whatever in Gary, Indiana, I guess. So these were all where all the steel was made. And let's see if I can find that. I was watching this one from our doctor. Do this daily to avoid like he's got you doing exercises and rubbing your eyes together. So I got to watch that a little closely. That'd be nice if it worked. Let's see, where is this? I watched so much on. All right, here it is. It's called the Rust Belt. It's 38. I don't want to watch the whole thing, but in summary, in the 50s, we had to steel after the World War II, and we're making all these cars, and Ohio's making all the tires, and we're at the monopoly on it, kind of in America. And then Japan and Germany start changing from the way our furnace works to the way they came up with a better way. You know how you see those blow torches in these bank movies where they, it shoots out blue. Well, that's what they did. They went from this oven that heated the steel so they could use it to make the cars to the blowtorch. But the US didn't think they had to, and they didn't think they had competition. And this goes against economics because in economics, you must be very wary of competition. And they weren't. And that's the whole point of it, right? It's the uh, you can't think you don't have competition. As soon as you do, you're in trouble. And so what Japan and China did, Japan and Germany did with the blowtorch technology, they could do the steel quicker and much so it would, instead of taking 10 hours, it would take 2 hours. And so they did that, and that basically ended the US dominance in steel. US steel sold to Japan, and then you started having smaller cars come out because the oil crisis in 71, where they wouldn't sell us oil. There was no oil shortage. It's just they didn't sell it to us for some reason. And they came out with the small Toyotas and Hondas and the Volkswagen and smaller car Audi and stuff like that, Porsche. And so who wanted the US cars? So the whole Rust Belt fell apart. Let's watch a few minutes of this and we'll go.
Make this one 15-second adjustment near your breaker panel tonight and watch what happens to your electric bill. By your next billing cycle, it could drop almost in half. Here's exactly what it does to your...
In 1953, the steel industry employed 650,000 Americans, and most of them worked within a few hundred miles of the same body of water. From Buffalo across to Cleveland, down through Youngstown and Pittsburgh, up through Gary and into Detroit and Chicago, the Great Lakes region was the richest concentration of industrial wealth the world had ever seen. It accounted for more than half of all American manufacturing jobs and roughly 45% of the nation's entire economic output. The region didn't just make steel. It made the cars, the tires, the glass, the rubber, the appliances, and the heavy machinery that the rest of the planet was buying as fast as America could produce it. If you had picked up a globe in 1953 and asked where the money was, the honest answer was a belt of smokestack cities draped along the southern shore of the Great Lakes. And nearly every dollar of that wealth depended on a single piece of technology, a furnace. The open hearth furnace had been the backbone of American steelmaking since the 1880s. It was slow. It took 8 to 12 hours to refine a batch of steel. It was energy intensive. It required enormous amounts of fuel to maintain its heat. But it was what the mills knew, and it worked. And by the 1940s, more than 80% of all the steel produced in the United States came out of open hearth furnaces. The men who ran those furnaces, and the executives who built their empires around them, had no particular reason to wonder whether there might be a better way to do the job. They were winning. They were winning so completely that the question didn't even occur to them. That confidence had roots going back half a century. In December of 1900, at a now legendary dinner at the University Club in Manhattan, a 38-year-old steel executive named Charles Schwab stood up and gave a speech to a room full of bankers. The most important man in the room was not Schwab, but the man seated next to him, John Pierpont Morgan, the most powerful financier in the world. Schwab's speech was carefully crafted. He laid out a vision, a single corporation that would consolidate the nation's fragmented steel industry, end the ruinous cycle of price wars and overproduction, and dominate the market. Morgan was persuaded. Within weeks, he opened negotiations with Andrew Carnegie, the Scottish-born industrialist whose Carnegie Steel Company was by far the largest producer in the country. Carnegie agreed to sell for approximately $480 million in bonds and stock, a staggering figure, the equivalent of something like $15 billion today. On February 25, 1901, the United States Steel Corporation was incorporated in New Jersey with an authorized capitalization of $1.4 billion. It was the world's first billion-dollar corporation. In its first full year of operations, U.S. Steel produced 67% of all the steel made in the United States. It employed a fleet of Great Lakes freighters. It owned railroads that hauled iron ore from Minnesota, coal from Appalachia, and limestone from Michigan. It was, in the language of Wall Street, simply the corporation, because no qualifier was necessary. The geography of the industry was dictated by raw materials and transportation. Iron ore.
So, real quickly, so you think, oh, look at this big corporation, it can't fail. It's a monopoly. I'll buy this stock and own it, forever. And this is the point I make, but there's changes that happen. You're never, you can't go and don't think there's going to be some sort of competition or changes. Why they made it into a monopoly is really stupid. I guess they didn't think they could compete, but that's what they did. So U.S. Steel is a monopoly, and it's good for a while. But so if you blindly own it and you think, well, it's like Bitcoin. Well, it's 128. It's just going to keep going up. And now it's at 60,000. Oops, it hasn't kept. You can't think like that. The only thing we can think of is gold and silver, which has been held down. So people are doing the reverse, going, well, it's not going anywhere, and they don't understand it. Just like here, there will be competition, and as soon as they see it, they have to understand it, which they don't. So again, just you can't blindly hold something and not. You have to anticipate there's going to be competition. They're going to do something better than you're doing, and we'll find out what that is.
Came from the Mesabi Range in northern Minnesota, shipped by freighter down through the Great Lakes to ports along the southern shores: Gary, Cleveland, Buffalo. U.S. Steel operated the Pittsburgh Steamship Company, the largest commercial fleet on the Great Lakes, hauling ore across cold water to feed its furnaces. Coking coal came up from western Pennsylvania and West Virginia by rail to Pittsburgh, where the Monongahela and Allegheny rivers converge.
Three River Stadium.
The Clairton Coke Works, south of Pittsburgh, became the largest coking facility in North America. The steel that came out of those furnaces then traveled outward by rail and barge to build the physical infrastructure of the 20th century. The bridges, the skyscrapers, the automobiles, the San Francisco-Oakland Bay Bridge, the Sears Tower in Chicago, the rails themselves. The cities that grew around this process were not incidental to it. They were created by it. Gary, Indiana did not exist before steel. In 1906, U.S. Steel purchased roughly 10,000 acres of swampland and sand dunes on the south shore of Lake Michigan, 30 miles from Chicago, and built a city from nothing. They named it after Elbert Henry Gary, the corporation's founding chairman, a lawyer and former judge who had never swung a hammer in his life. By 1908, the Gary Works plant was operating. Workers poured in, immigrants from more than 50 countries in the city's first 15 years, and black families arriving from the Deep South as part of the Great Migration, drawn by wages that no Southern employer would match. Gary hit 100,000 residents by 1930. They called it the Magic City because nothing had ever grown that fast. By the 1950s, its population approached 178,000, making it Indiana's second largest city, and Gary Works, with its 12 blast furnaces and more than 30,000 employees, was the largest steel mill in the world. A downtown commercial strip along Broadway hummed with department stores, movie theaters, and restaurants.
That's my wife in the truck here in Oakland County, Michigan. Yeah. 14 million views as of this morning. Mm-hmm. The comments are exactly what you'd think they are. Yeah. So I let her take the truck.
Strip along Broadway hummed with department stores, movie theaters, and restaurants. A Broadway musical, The Music Man, written in 1957, featured a song called Gary, Indiana, in which a con man wistfully recalled the prosperous town as his hometown. The joke is that the play is set in 1912. Gary had barely existed 6 years by then. The same pattern repeated across the region. Detroit's population hit 1.85 million in 1950, making it America's fourth largest city, with 296,000 manufacturing jobs, almost entirely on the strength of the auto industry. Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler, the big three, had their headquarters there. And by 1965, they controlled 90% of all American vehicle sales. The assembly line, which Henry Ford had pioneered at his Highland Park plant in 1910, had made Detroit the manufacturing capital of the world. During the war, the Ford Willow Run plant in Dearborn produced a B-24 bomber every 63 minutes, an engineering feat so staggering that the factory was nicknamed the Arsenal of Democracy.
Which country was that, for Germany
New
or
car
for the
sales
U.S.?
across the United States quadrupled between 1945 and 1955, and nearly all of those cars were made by companies headquartered in or around Detroit. The city had the highest median income in America, and for black workers migrating north, offered something that existed almost nowhere else, a genuine path to the middle class. Ford Motor Company was one of the largest private employers of African Americans in the country. Cleveland peaked at 915,000 residents. It had been the first city in the world to install an electric traffic signal, and its Euclid Avenue, lined with mansions, had been called the most beautiful street in the world by at least one visiting European dignitary. Pittsburgh, which had produced half the nation's steel through the mid-1950s, was the 8th largest city in America. Andrew Carnegie had used his steel fortune to endow libraries, museums, and what became Carnegie Mellon University. Andrew Mellon, the banker and industrialist, built a financial empire there and became Secretary of the Treasury. Pittsburgh's smoke-blackened skyline was so iconic that residents joked about going through 2 white shirts a day. Youngstown, Ohio, a city of 170,000 people, was the country's 3rd largest steel producer, so thoroughly dominated by mills that children set their clocks by the noon whistle and fell asleep at night to the orange glow of molten steel reflecting off the sky. By the 1920s, 4 out of 5 residents of Youngstown were immigrants or the children of immigrants: Italians, Slovaks, Croatians, Greeks, Welsh, who had come for the wages. Akron was the rubber capital of the world. Goodyear, Firestone, Goodrich, General
And
Tire,
Bowling.
all headquartered within a few miles of each other. Buffalo was a flour milling and steel powerhouse, its wealth reflected in grand civic buildings and an arts district funded by industrial money. Flint, Michigan existed because of General Motors. The company was founded there in 1908 by William Durant. These cities were not merely wealthy, they had among the highest rates of home ownership in the country. They had symphony orchestras and department stores and movie palaces and hotels that rivaled anything in New York. Youngstown had a Millionaire's Row on its north side, lined with mansions. Gary had its City Methodist Church, a soaring Gothic structure built in 1926 with partial funding from U.S. Steel. A young crooner from Steubenville named Dino Crocetti, later known as Dean Martin, would occasionally come up to Youngstown's Jungle Inn just outside the city limits to sing a few songs and deal blackjack. The money, the architecture, the cultural life, all of it sat on the same foundation, and the foundation was the furnace. Here is where the story turns. In the early 1950s, 2 Austrian steelmakers, the companies known as Voest and OAMG, developed a new steelmaking process. Instead of the open hearth method, which used gas or oil to heat molten iron over many hours, the new process blew pure oxygen directly into the molten metal, burning off excess carbon at extraordinary speed. A batch of steel that took 8 hours in an open hearth furnace could be completed in about 40 minutes using this basic oxygen process. The investment costs per ton were lower. The energy costs were lower. The quality of the finished product was, in many applications, superior. The first commercial basic oxygen furnace began operating in Linz, Austria in 1952.
So real quick, so if you're the U.S. steel industry and you hear this, you buy them out or you take their new design because it's much quicker, it's much better, it's cheaper. Why would you not either steal this or pay for it or, they're doing that, I'm going to do that? What are you thinking? you know they're going to pass you by and you're fucked, but you think you're the best and nothing can happen. You got a monopoly in the US. It's just like gold now. They keep the gold price down, but China, Russia, and BRICS are buying it. And there goes the dollar. And they can't think like that. So here, you fucked your whole industry by not seeing what Austria and then Japan was doing. And you paid all this money for US Steel, and you're letting this go by, and you're not gonna buy it or copy it. And then you wonder why you're broke and all these cities died and you're out of business. There is no US Steel now because they did not see this coming and take any action. Unbelievable. This is, you got to compete. This is competition. This isn't, and that's why I think JP Morgan's just a communist. He likes monopoly because then he can't think and he can't be creative. But here they blew you away and you just sat there. What are you doing, man?
Now, two categories of steelmakers existed in the world at that moment. The first category was countries like Japan and West Germany, whose steel industries had been bombed into rubble during the war. They had to rebuild from scratch. When they rebuilt, they built with the latest available technology, the basic oxygen furnace. Japan, in particular, moved aggressively. Japanese engineers improved on the Austrian design, developing a multi-hold oxygen lance that made the process even more efficient. By the late 1950s, Japan's rebuilt steel industry was among the most modern on Earth. The second category was the United States. America's mills had not been bombed. They were intact. They had just spent a decade running at full capacity to feed the post-war boom. And they were making an enormous amount of money doing it, exactly the way they'd always done it. U.S. Steel's revenues quintupled between 1938 and 1951, from $611 million to more than $3.5 billion.
Have you heard about Pop-On Roofing? We need 50 homeowners in your area to trial this radically simple new
$1 billion to more than.
But most of that was because of the war. They had to build tanks and planes and boats and guns for the war. So that's what they were doing with the steel. And so it was kind of like, as soon as the war died down, then a lot of their demand went down.
$3.5 billion. Why would you tear out a furnace that was printing money and replace it with something unproven? The executives at U.S. Steel and Bethlehem Steel, the two dominant producers, looked at the oxygen process and decided to wait. The first oxygen converters in the United States were installed at the end of 1954, not by U.S. Steel or Bethlehem, but by a company called McLouth Steel, a small operation in Trenton, Michigan, that accounted for less than 1% of national steel production. McLouth adopted the new technology because it had nothing to lose. The giants saw no reason to follow. U.S. Steel and Bethlehem Steel did not introduce the oxygen process until 1964, a full decade after McLouth, and 12 years after the Austrians had proved it commercially viable. By then, the damage was accumulating. In 1959, the United States became a net importer of steel for the first time in its history. That sentence deserves to sit for a moment. A country that had produced more steel than the rest of the world combined during World War II was now buying more steel from abroad than it sold. The arithmetic behind that shift was brutal but simple. Japanese and German mills, built with oxygen furnaces, could produce a ton of steel faster, cheaper, and with fewer workers than an American open hearth mill. American steel workers in 1959 earned hourly wages more than 40% above the national manufacturing average, wages that their unions had secured through decades of strikes and threatened strikes. Those wages were sustainable only as long as American producers had no serious competition. The moment competition arrived, those labor costs became a weight that the old technology could not carry.
So let's carry this to gold and silver. Or no, let's carry this to COMEX. You have COMEX, which is a Ponzi scheme, and they write options to keep the price of gold and silver down, and oil and sugar and other things. And it works unless people start asking for the physical gold and silver on the options. As soon as they do that, it blows it up. Well, that's what's happening now. All the Chinese and Russians are asking for the delivery of the physical gold for these options, which they can't do. And that's ending COMEX. And here comes China and Russia. We got the answer. Well, let's go to a physical price and let's skip this option price and let's skip keeping the price. So it works until they ask for the gold. And this worked until they didn't compete. What a bunch of fucking idiots. You've got to compete. If they're doing it faster, better, cheaper, and you're paying your union employees so much more, and that's what's hurting the whole car industry. You pay the union guys in Detroit $50 an hour, and China and Japan and Germany don't have unions, and they don't pay $50 an hour. And China and Japan kind of subsidize their employees, and they don't have to pay they give them free health care. So our costs are so much higher than theirs. That's the big problem. You're not being competitive. If I can do it for 10 and it costs you 20, I'm going to win because I can sell them cheaper. Because all I got to do is cover my costs to win. And your costs are so much higher, you can't cover them. You can't sell your car cheaper than I can sell mine, and mine's better because mine's a Toyota or a Mercedes or something. Anyway, so that just reminded me of COMEX. The Ponzi scheme worked until they asked for delivery. And what does China do? They ask for delivery, as does Russia and India. They all want delivery. And they said no, or they don't have it. And that's created this Shanghai Gold Exchange and St. Petersburg and Hong Kong and everything, where now it's going to be a physical price. You have to have physical you have to have the physical, and that's what the price is going to be. And that's 2 days from now. So you're sitting there with the steel company going, this is great. We can just lie back and the money just keeps coming in until it doesn't. And this is what's happening with the US dollar. We're the reserve currency, and we're the petrodollar until we're not. And people want the US dollar until they don't, until they want gold. So this is a perfect example of what is about to happen. The economy is collapsing. The money is not worth anything. You can keep printing the money until nobody wants it. And what do you want more than US dollars? Gold, because gold cannot compete with the US dollar. So once you understand that, but this is exactly what's going to happen. So here's the steel companies collapsing because the competition, and they didn't do anything. Or they waited 10 years, and by then they got passed over, thinking, we got the monopoly, we're great, we're this, we're that. No, you're not. Look at Indiana. All of a sudden, they're a football power. Alabama, what happened to them? They're not number one anymore. Well, they were good until they weren't good. And that's what happens. It always changes. You always have to be ready. That is why I am so successful handicapping football games, because I don't stick with U.S. Steel. If I see the Japan team playing, then I bet on the Japan team. So that's why I'm successful. I'm open to the change and the competition. All of a sudden, Indiana's number one. Start betting Indiana. I don't have to keep betting Alabama, Notre Dame, Ohio State. They're looking good. Michigan got a new coach, which is the trigger of the change. And that's what you do. And that's what I do better than anybody is wait, here comes Utah. BYU's good. Texas Tech. How many people had Texas Tech last year? Now they started to play good. And I picked them up middle of the year. The BYU game I bet under. The Utah game I bet under. You could see who had these really strong defenses by the box scores and the scores. And that's what you're adjusting to. There's always somebody coming in. You have to realize that. So we do it in football. We're trying to figure out baseball. It's a little difficult, but basically you can see what happened with the steel industry. And there is no more U.S. Steel. It's gone. Bye-bye. There's no more Buffalo. There's no more Cleveland. Gary, Indiana's gone. Flint, Michigan's gone. Detroit's gone. I'm in the suburbs. I can't even get an auto job now because they're not even here to get jobs with. GM and Ford are laying off. Mercedes, Germany's in big trouble. So, I mean, you've got to get out of the auto industry, but yet we still make cars and we still need cars because in the US, there is no, like, if I go to Amsterdam, I can ride a bike or I can get on the little trams, or Austria, Switzerland, you just go to the hotel, you get on a little tram, go downtown, $2. You don't have that here. You got to own a car. So you're still going to have a demand for the car, but the competition's eating you up. Toyota and Honda and German cars, now the Chinese. But we're not ready for electric cars. I don't think we want that. But anyway, you can see when the change happens, you have to be aware of the change happens and adapt to it in everything. Women, football, baseball, golf. What do they come out with? New golf club titaniums. Women, they start acting differently. You got to pick up on that. Well, she always kissed me and said good morning, and now she doesn't. What the fuck's going on? And that's what you got to notice the change. And there's a reason for the change. You just got to figure it out. All right, back to this.
But the lack of innovation wasn't just about furnaces. It was a culture, and that culture had a name, though nobody used it at the time. The Rust Belt's dominant industries, steel, autos, tires, operated as comfortable oligopolies. Prior to 1980, market shares...
An oligopoly is when there's only two or three, GM, Ford, and Chrysler. That's it. That's an oligopoly. A monopoly is one. An oligopoly is two or three. And then perfect competition, there's 100 different people selling you phones and TVs and computers. There's all this is a ASUS. I don't know what the fuck that is. Before it used to just be like Dell or whatever. So that's when an oligopoly is, just two or three. It's a very limited competitive market.
For the major producers in these industries ran as high as 90%. Prices were coordinated through a practice that in steel was politely called price leadership. U.S. Steel would announce a price, and the rest of the industry would follow. Elbert Gary himself had pioneered this system decades earlier through his famous Gary Dinners, where the heads of competing steel firms gathered to agree on pricing and marketing. The word collusion was carefully avoided, but the effect was the same. By 1963, the Senate Antitrust and Monopoly Committee concluded that there was little, if any, price competition in steel and autos, and it recommended that General Motors be broken up into competing firms. The recommendation went nowhere. In rubber, the Federal Trade Commission in 1959 charged 15 manufacturers with agreeing on common list prices. The U.S. Justice Department charged Ford and General Motors with collusion, and the Big Three with conspiring to eliminate competition. None of it changed the behavior. The Big Three automakers faced no meaningful foreign competition until the oil crisis of the 1970s. There was, simply put, enough business to go around, and nobody felt the need to get better. The American Iron and Steel Institute itself acknowledged the problem, though only in retrospect. Its 1980 annual report noted what careful readers had long suspected. Inadequate capital formation in the industry had produced meager gains in productivity, upward pressure on prices, sluggish job creation, and faltering economic growth. By the time the industry's own trade group was saying it out loud, the collapse was already underway.
In English, they can't compete. They're not competitive, is what he just said. And that's the problem. You're not seeing what other people are doing. You're not reacting to it. You can't compete with them. You're fucked. And they fucked themselves.
Would your portfolios work harder? Maybe it's time to explore alternative investments. You're invited.
By the time the industry's own trade group was saying it out loud, the collapse was already underway. Labor productivity growth in the Rust Belt averaged only about 2% per year before 1980, compared with nearly 3% in the rest of the United States. That 1 percentage point gap, compounded over 3 decades, was devastating. It meant that by the late 1970s, Rust Belt industries had fallen significantly behind in efficiency, in technology, in the capacity to compete on price. And the unions, powerful as they were, bore part of the responsibility. Economists have described a hold-up problem. Firms that invested in innovation knew that any resulting profits would have to be bargained over with the unions, which functioned as a de facto tax on the returns to investment. So firms invested less, innovated less, and fell further behind. It was a spiral of shared complacency between management and labor, each side content with the arrangement as long as the money kept flowing. The money stopped. The first major blow fell on September 19, 1977, a date that still carries a name in Youngstown, Ohio. They call it Black Monday. That morning, corporate representatives of the Likes Corporation, a New Orleans shipping company that had acquired Youngstown Sheet and Tube in 1969, flew into the Pittsburgh airport, held a board meeting, and announced that the Campbell Works, the larger of Sheet and Tube's two local mills, would be closing immediately. 5,000 workers were laid off, most of them receiving no advance notice. You feel the whole area is doomed somehow, the wife of a laid-off worker told reporters. If this can happen to us, there is not a secure union job in the country. The backstory made it worse. Youngstown Sheet and Tube had been founded in 1900 by local industrialists, men like George D. Wick and James Anson Campbell, who believed that steel companies should be owned by the communities they served. Local ownership was more than sentiment in Youngstown. It was a safeguard, a way to make sure that the people making decisions about the mills had a stake in the neighborhoods those mills supported. At its peak, Sheet and Tube was the largest corporation in Ohio. Then, in 1969, it was swallowed by the Likes Corporation, a New Orleans-based shipping company 1/6 its size. Justice Department investigators had recommended blocking the merger, arguing that the steel company wouldn't survive under Likes' debt load. They were overruled by U.S. Attorney General John Mitchell, who would later become infamous for his role in Watergate. Likes proceeded to drain Youngstown Sheet and Tube's cash flow, telling suppliers they'd now be paid in 60 days instead of 30, using the freed-up cash to pay down its own acquisition debt rather than invest in the mills. The open hearth furnaces in Youngstown, the ones that needed to be replaced with basic oxygen furnaces, never were. Workers saw what was happening. They knew they needed the new technology, but the money went to Likes, and they were left with the open hearths. By the time the company was done, the mills were held together, in the words of one union official, with baling wire and tape. Within 5 years of Black Monday, 50,000 jobs vanished from the Mahoning Valley. Over $1.3 billion in annual wages disappeared. Unemployment hit nearly 25%. An estimated 400 smaller businesses that had depended on the steel industry's paychecks, restaurants, car dealerships, dry cleaners, hardware stores, closed. U.S. Steel soon followed, shutting its Ohio works in Youngstown in 1979. Republic Steel went bankrupt in the mid-1980s. Pat Ungaro, who had been a city councilman on Black Monday and later served as Youngstown's mayor from 1984 to 1997, described the effect as less a ripple and more a tidal wave. The population of Youngstown, which had peaked at 170,000, began a free fall that would bring it below 65,000. A city that once had one of the highest home ownership rates in the country found itself budgeting for demolitions. The Mahoning Valley's most significant new industry, according to one local attorney who spent 20 years handling the aftermath, was the construction of 3 large prisons. Youngstown became a prison town. And Youngstown was only the beginning. In the fall of 1952, there had been more than 400,000 manufacturing jobs across southwestern Pennsylvania, 4 out of every 10 workers in the region. By the early 1980s, that world was gone. Pittsburgh lost 90,000 steel jobs between 1980 and 1984 alone, a halving of its steelworking workforce in 4 years.
So you've got to understand the competition. So what happened here? They're broke. Why? Because they can't make sales. They cannot compete. When they go in, as we know how business works, it costs you this, you sell it for that. And as long as it costs you 10 and you sell it for 15, you're in business. So what ended up happening is their cost, Japan and Germany were able to sell these cheaper. So their cost stayed at 15, but they couldn't sell it at 20. They could only sell it at 10. That's why they all went out of business. They never went to the new techniques. Their union jobs paid way too much. The problem with union is it gets you out of the market. You want to pay what the market will bear. You want to do everything what the market will bear. And you have to adjust that. Your costs go up and down based on the market, and your selling price goes up and down based on the market. So if Japan can do it far cheaper and pay their workers far less, they're going to be able to sell it less because their costs went from 20 to 10. They can sell it for 15. Your costs are 30. You can't sell it for 15, and you go out of business. And that's what's happened. And it all goes to Japan, who had the cars, and now China, because they can do it cheaper. A lot of it's government subsidies. A lot of it, they come up with different designs. It's happening with the tech industry. AI, I don't believe will work. I think it's going to be way more costly than it's worth. So the cost will go up with AI, and you're not going to be able to pass the price on. So let's say your costs are $20 to make something. You bring in AI, and it goes to 30 or whatever, and your costs. If your costs go to 30 because of AI, you're going to be able to sell your product under over 35. If you're selling it, if your costs are 20 and you're selling it at 25, and AI makes your costs go up to 30 because you got to pay a lot for AI, you can't raise your price. You cannot sell it to the market. You can't just set a price at the market. This is a very key thing I teach. I can only sell it to the market what they will pay for it, what they will bear. So no matter what I have this pen. No matter what, I can only sell it to the market for $3. So if it costs me $1, fine. Now, if China comes in and sells the pen for 50 cents and it costs me $1, I'm fucked. I can't sell it for 50 cents if it costs me $1. Therefore, I'm fucked, and I must go out of business because I will lose if I sell my pens at the 50 cents to compete, because the market's saying you can, they're selling it for 50 cents. So you got to sell it for 50 cents. Otherwise, if I sell it for $1, everybody else sells it for 50 cents. Who are you going to buy it from? The one selling it for 50 cents. And that's basically what happened with the cars and with steel and the tires. It all went to Japan, and they could do it much cheaper with their productivity and their systems. And now China's doing it, and they're killing. Germany's going out because they can't compete with China with the cheaper labor costs and the cheaper materials. The U.S. is in big trouble because we don't have a lot of the critical minerals needed, and yet we want to, so we don't have the minerals. We can't make the products. And then you have this military complex where we'll make our money selling weapons until Russia sells weapons and China sells weapons and all these other countries start selling weapons cheaper. And again, you think you're the only place, Northrop, Grumman, and Raytheon, and these, they're monopolies. They're not monopolies. Their monopolies may be in the U.S. So the U.S. says, well, we'll have wars, and that'll create a fake demand for these products. We need a tank. We need missiles. We need that. And that's where they couldn't do it with cars. They're trying to do it with the defense contractors. Well, everybody will need missiles and tanks and planes and boats. And no, all they need now is drones and these other missiles. And they're very expensive. And nobody has money to pay for it anyway. So you fucked up because the dollar's not worth anything. So I can't pay you anyway. I'm going to pay you in monopoly money, and you're not going to want it. And here comes the gold. Oh, I'll pay in gold. Oh, fuck yeah, okay. I'll take your gold over over monopoly money. Nobody wants this. So, I mean, that's what happens. You have to adapt. You have to be able to compete, which you can't with a high union. We're the only one with unions, right? There's no unions, I don't believe, in Germany or Europe, or maybe there are some in Europe, but definitely not in Japan and China, and definitely not in Russia. So they can have lower wages and come up with the technology. China steals all our technology anyway, so they can make the product cheaper, and our costs kill us because we can't sell it for what the competition sells it for. So here comes a Camry for $20,000. Ford and GM can't compete with that. No way. The quality is not anywhere near that. People might have a little loyalty to GM and Ford, but at the end of the day, they're going to buy Camrys. And that's why that's the number one seller. So it all becomes what these other countries, because you're not just competing in the US, you're competing with the world. And they don't seem to understand that. So if China can make something and sell it for 10 and it costs you 15 to make it, how the hell are you going to compete with it? You can't. That's why US Steel is no longer here. That's why Ford and GM are packing out. That's why Chrysler's gone. They can't make it and sell it cheap enough. And so Ford tries to sell things for $40,000. I'm laughing, going, who the fuck's going to pay for a Ford $40,000? Not going to happen. And so you've got to understand, I can only sell it for X. So I've got to make it less. If I can only sell it for 20, I have to make it for 15. Even though I'm making it for 30 now. And if I can't sell it if my cost doesn't go down to 15, because I'm only going to be able to get 20, I'm out of business. And as you see, the neighborhoods go out of business. All these people get laid off. The unions who are supposed to protect you can't protect you because they're the reasons that you're out of business, because I got to pay you $40 an hour and China pays $10 an hour. And so we're fucked. And so that's why you see all these industries closing. And the problem with the US, we don't make anything. It's just Wall Street. That's it. We don't make anything. AI, I don't know if that's just an IT thing. You don't really make it. So we're making IT and we're making finance stuff, and our stock market, we're making money because the stock market's up or because Bitcoin's up. There's no business here. You got all these people that are fucked because they can't get a job because you got to be highly specific in IT, and then Wall Street. That's just a scam. That's a Madoff all over the place. All right, let's see.
Mill after mill went dark. The Duquesne Steel Works, which had employed as many as 9,000 people in the 1940s, closed on October 1st, 1984. The Homestead Steel Works, site of the infamous 1892 strike, one of the most important in American labor history, shut down. By the end of the 1980s, 75% of Pittsburgh's steelmaking capacity was shuttered. 150,000 steel mill workers were laid off by the early 1980s. In Gary, the workforce at Gary Works fell from 32,000 in 1970 to 7,000 by 2005. The city's population dropped 61% from its peak. By 1990, only 6,000 workers remained at the mill that had once been the world's largest. Time magazine in 1972 had already described Gary as sitting like an ash heap in the northwest corner of Indiana. By the early 1990s, its nickname had changed from the Magic City to the Murder Capital. Nearly 7,000 buildings stood abandoned. About 1 in 3 parcels of land in the city sat vacant, a landscape of empty lots where houses had been torn down or had simply caved in on themselves. Detroit's agony played out on a different timeline, but with the same underlying cause. The Big Three had spent decades ignoring the possibility that anyone could build cars as well as they could. Between 1945 and 1957, the automakers built 25 new manufacturing plants in the Detroit metropolitan area. Not one of them was located in the city itself. All were in the suburbs, where land was cheaper and union influence weaker.
Hey, Derek, what kind of ride you driving and what you pay for insurance?
2012 Chevy Silverado. I used to pay $199, but I'm down to $59.
2015 Toyota Tacoma, dropped from 100.
In the suburbs, where land was cheaper and union influence weaker. This was the beginning of the population drain, and it was accelerated by the construction of freeways that made suburban commuting possible while demolishing entire urban neighborhoods. The Oakland-Hastings Freeway was laid directly through the heart of the Black Bottom Business District. The Edsel Ford Expressway required the demolition of more than 2,800 buildings, including jazz nightclubs, churches, and family homes. A letter found in historical archives from a resident named Mrs. Grace Black captured what that displacement felt like. A family of 6 turned down everywhere because they had children, desperately searching for a house. Then came the 1973 oil crisis. Gasoline prices spiked. American automakers who had built their business around large, heavy, gas-hungry vehicles were suddenly competing with Japanese and German manufacturers who had spent years perfecting smaller, more fuel-efficient cars. Chrysler narrowly avoided bankruptcy in the late 1970s only with the help of a federal bailout. General Motors shuttered its colossal Dodge main plant in 1980, a facility that had employed more than 30,000 people at its peak. Ford's Highland Park plant, the birthplace of the assembly line, ceased operations in 1974, a casualty of the oil crisis's fallout. By 1980, 34% of Detroit's population was white, down from 83% in 1950. 90,000 manufacturing jobs disappeared during the 1980s alone. On Devil's Night, 1984, arsonists set 810 fires across the city in a single evening, an annual tradition of destruction that had escalated beyond anyone's ability to contain it. Detroit's population, which had been 1.85 million in 1950, fell to 713,000 by 2010. The city's finances had been built on the assumption of a minimum tax base of 750,000 people. And when the population dropped below that floor, the math simply stopped working. In 2013, the city filed for municipal bankruptcy, $18 billion in debt, the largest such filing in American history.
U.S. has a $40 trillion debt. Do you think they're going to file for bankruptcy very, very soon? What else can they do? They keep printing money, but then the money isn't worth anything. So you can't just say, well, governments don't go bankrupt. They just did. Detroit did. The U.S. is bankrupt. They have to go bankrupt. There's no way out of it. Where are they going to go with $40 trillion? If they print it, you're just giving away monopoly money. This is the problem. And then your out is gold and silver. So it all comes back to having real money that doesn't lose its value. Not only that, but you owe $40 trillion. So who wants your money in the first place? Because you're going to keep printing it, but you can't. It doesn't work like that. So if you keep printing it, it has no value. And so you get out of the boat and you go to where the value is, which is gold and silver. So you can see how it all comes back to what we're talking.
The Packard Motor Car Factory, 3.5 million square feet, opened in 1903, stood abandoned for decades, the largest ruined industrial building in the world, before finally being demolished in the 2020s. Cleveland lost more than half its population, falling from 915,000 to 372,000. The city that had been mocked in the 1970s as the mistake on the lake continued to shrink decade after decade. Buffalo went from 580,000 to 278,000. St. Louis dropped from 857,000 to 301,000, a 65% decline, the steepest of any major American city. Flint, Michigan, which had been built almost entirely around General Motors, became synonymous with urban crisis. Akron lost 35,000 jobs when Goodrich, Firestone, and General Tire closed their production lines, ending its run as the rubber capital of the world. One detail makes those numbers even more revealing. In many cases, the metropolitan areas around these cities actually grew. Detroit's metro population expanded from 3.17 million to 4.39 million, even as the city itself lost 2/3 of its people. What happened was not simply that people left the region. People with the means to leave moved to surrounding suburbs, draining the city's tax base, while the cost of maintaining roads, sewers, and schools, infrastructure built for a much larger population, remained the same. A city that loses 1/3 of its people still has to plow the same miles of road. The per-person cost of running the city goes up at precisely the moment there are fewer people to share it. The spiral feeds itself. The aggregate numbers are almost hard to absorb. U.S. manufacturing employment peaked in June 1979 at 19.6 million workers. Over the next 4 decades, 6.7 million of those jobs vanished. The Rust Belt absorbed a disproportionate share of that loss. Between 1969 and 1996, manufacturing employment declined by 33% in the region. Steel production nationally peaked at 111.4 million tons in 1973. By 1984, it had collapsed to 70 million. Steel employment went from 650,000 in 1953 to 236,000 in 1984. By 2015, the number was 142,000. By 2025, it was 83,000, roughly 1/8 of what it had been at the peak. The man-hours needed to produce a ton of finished steel, which had been 10.1 in 1980, dropped to 1.5 by 2017. The steel industry, in other words, eventually did modernize. It just did so by replacing people with machines. And by then, the cities those people had built were already hollowed out. One detail makes the tragedy almost operatic. In the early 1980s, with the steel crisis at its worst, the Reagan administration granted substantial tax breaks to American steel companies, specifically so they could modernize their mills and compete with foreign producers. U.S. Steel took the money. In March 1982, it used those concessions, plus $1.4 billion in cash and $4.7 billion in loans, to buy Marathon Oil, saving approximately $500 million in taxes through the merger. Not a penny went to new furnaces. Senator Arlen Specter of Pennsylvania, who had been one of the architects of those tax breaks, said publicly, "We go out on a limb in Congress, and we feel they should be putting it in steel." 4 years later, in 1986, U.S. Steel changed its name to USX Corporation to reflect the fact that steel was no longer its primary business. By the 1990s, Marathon Oil represented more than 80% of the company's revenues. The corporation, the titan that had produced 2/3 of America's steel in its first year of existence, had effectively quit the business that had built it.
Watch what olive oil does to your dog's lumps.
This is what it means if your dog keeps getting lumps on their body.
Of existence, had effectively quit the business that had built it. Think about what happened in that sequence. Congress gave steel companies tax breaks to save the industry that employed hundreds of thousands of people across the region. The largest steel company in the country took the money and bought an oil company. The workers in Youngstown and Gary and Pittsburgh and Cleveland, the people whose jobs those tax breaks were supposed to protect, were left with nothing. And the company renamed itself, as though the word steel had become an embarrassment. The Rust Belt's decline is often told as a story of many causes: globalization, automation, trade policy, union power, the rise of the Sun Belt,
Competition.
the invention of air conditioning. And all of those factors played a role. But the research is increasingly clear on one point. A 2014 study by economists Simeon Alder, David Lagakos, and Lee Ohanian at the National Bureau of Economic Research concluded that the lack of competitive pressure in the Rust Belt's product and labor markets, the comfortable monopolies, the unchallenged pricing, the wages negotiated without regard to productivity, accounted for approximately 2/3 of the region's decline in employment share between 1950 and 2000. 2/3. Not trade with China, not NAFTA, not robots. The single largest cause was that the Rust Belt's own industries, fat with wartime profits and post-war dominance, stopped competing. That is the one mistake.
And that's always the mistake. You've got to be able to compete. That's why football teams go down. What happened to the Steelers of the 70s? They lost all their players. They didn't they didn't replace Joe Green. They didn't replace Lambert. They didn't replace Jack Ham and Mel Blount, Mike Wagner, Franco. So you end up where you're not as good, and then you can't compete. That's a sports analogy, but basically in business, you have to compete. What are you doing now? You see a lot of the fast food restaurants going out of business, the pizza places, Burger King. Burger King and McDonald's cannot compete with Coney Island. They can get a half-pound burger, God knows what it's made out of, and chili for $11, and I'm not paying $11 for McDonald's hamburger and fries and a drink or whatever the hell they have there. They can't compete. It costs them too much, and the quality sucks. So you're seeing a lot of companies go out of business because they can't compete. Their costs go up, but they can't raise their prices. That is the key to business. It cost me 10. I gotta sell it for 15. And as competition comes in, I can only sell it for 14 or 13 or 12. And I got to figure out a way to get my costs from 10 to 5 because my price is going to come down. And I went to the grocery store yesterday and Coke, 2 for $5. Dark chocolate, $6. I mean, the shelves are full. Who's going to pay $6.19 for fucking my dark chocolate? It's crazy. And so it must cost them $5 and they got to sell it for $6, but you can't. The market's not there for $6 dark chocolate. And they'll eventually go out of business because they can't sell it for more than it costs them. That's the critical point. You must develop ways to lower your cost. That's why you cannot be in a union. Unions will kill you. The unemployment, when they want to make a minimum unemployment, right? What do they call that? Minimum wage, right? The government comes out and says, you got to pay your employees $20 an hour. You just killed the company because my business model is based on paying the guy to flip the hamburgers $10 an hour. And at that, I can sell my hamburgers for $15 an hour. And if you make me pay $20 an hour, my costs go over what I can sell it for. I have to go out of business, or I only hire one guy. So I have a lot less workers because I have to lower my costs to compete. And the only way I can do that is to automate and come up with a better, like they did with the oven in this video, where Japan came out with a better oven that was much more productive and much cheaper. That's what you got to do. You're making cars. Do you think Ford and GM have come up with better ways that make their cars cheaper? And that's probably why the electric car, it's mostly popular in China. That's why it works, because they can't compete. Their costs are too high. So this is maybe cheaper. I don't know. The electric car, the problem is the batteries will never work. They won't hold their charge, as we know from cell phones and laptops. It's my charge is at 76%. It was 100 this morning, and the problem is that the batteries won't hold their charge. So the electric is just a Ponzi scheme. It's good for the first year when you own the car, and if you plan on selling it every year, but it's very expensive because it's cost per unit. Right. That's how you come up with selling like a lot of cars or a lot of whatever Coca-Cola, cost per unit is 2 cents, but if you sell 10 million of them, but if you sell like 500,000, the cost goes up to 50 cents. So you're trying to do cost per unit. So that's why the electric cars are so expensive. Nobody wants them. And the units sold are like 20,000, not 16 million gas power cars. So we don't electric cars because we know the battery will not keep charged. It'll catch on fire. We'll get locked in the car. On a real hot day, it won't work. On a real cold day, it won't work. What's wrong with my car? Nothing. So you haven't made it better, the electric car. You've just made it electric, but I don't know if it's a cost thing or what, but it won't work. Too many people. Why would I give up my gas car? Right? There's no shortage of oil. You have these idiot wars, and we're really like, what's the real reason Trump has lost his mind and is doing this war with Iran, and the gas prices are going to start going up? And I saw, they're down to like $3.79 for gas, but it was $2.90 for gas, $2.80, and went up to $5, and then it's now $3.79. But the Red Sea just closed whoever's in the Red Sea, Kuwait or, Libya or whatever it is, they just shut down the Red Sea. So Saudi Arabia can't ship their oil using the Red Sea because Saudi Arabia is a big country. So they don't need the Strait of Hormuz. They can go backdoor and go out through the Red Sea, but that's been closed. I don't know what Trump's doing is we're bankrupt. And so he's trying to steal oil, but he's not going to tell you that. He's trying to steal oil and gold from Iran, from Russia, from Venezuela. He did take their oil, but it was ridiculous. You're going to see diesel go up, so it's going to raise a lot of companies' costs. But my argument always is, but you can't raise the price. People will not tolerate a higher price. I don't care that your costs went from 5 to 10. I'm not paying you $15 for something I pay you $7.50 for. Not going to happen. And that's where the pushback's going to come. Is people are going to say, I'm not paying that. I don't care that your costs are up, as we shouldn't care about it. We care about us. I get so much money in that isn't worth anything. So I'm getting all this monopoly money. So even if I make $100,000, the money's not worth anything. I'm fucked. So fortunately, I can still pay my bills and monopoly money. And then I got to run to the gold store and buy the gold and silver to hold the value of the money because it's going down, because we keep printing it, because our costs keep going up, and we keep going into debt. All this public cost. Well, we got to pay all the government workers, which are schools and defense departments and, the roads. Oh, let's go build roads because that'll stimulate the economy. In what world will that stimulate the economy? All you're doing is paying people to work. Where are you getting the revenue from? Nobody pays to go to use the road. So if you keep doing construction and you keep spending, does not get you out of your depression that you put us in, and or get us out of bankruptcy. We need income to get out of bankruptcy, not expense. So when we build a road, it costs you money to build the road. Where in God's name are you getting the revenue? Nobody's paying you for revenue. You should have private roads where you're not doing the cost, and then you pay a toll. They do that in Ohio a lot. I think somewhere in Pennsylvania. I know like there's a highway in Ohio. It's a toll road, but you don't have to take it. I think to go to Cedar Point, you get on it for a little bit. But that's what you're trying to do, is you're trying to keep your costs down. And so the government can't, because they keep spending and they don't realize that part of the equation. So they spend, they think that'll get us out of the economy because that's Keynesian. Keynesian wants government spending, and that's what we'll do, and that'll save the economy. It won't. And then you have to print more money. So this is the point everybody misses. You then have to print more money to pay for your government spending, to pay for the teachers and their pensions and all everybody in government, the senators, the congressmen, the judges, you have to pay them, and you have to pay their pensions. Where do you get the money? There's no revenue being produced. This is the problem with government, and this is the real problem with big government. The bigger the government is, the more it costs you. Where are you getting the money from? Well, people will work, will get taxes. Well, no, you just lost all these steel jobs. You lost 2 million steel jobs. That was tax money. That's gone. So where are you going to get the money from? Now people go on unemployment. You got to pay them that. I'm on Social Security, but I paid into that. So you fuck me. Instead of letting me keep my own money and I'd have $1 million in retirement, I have to get $2,500 a month, which to pay most of my bills. But if I would have been allowed to keep my money, and keep in mind the employer pays 7.65% also. So there's really 15% going towards you. You do 7.65, your employer does 7.65. If that all could come to you, you'd be fine. But you got to pay me that. Where are you getting that money from? We'll just keep printing it. Social Security's broke, but they just keep printing the money. And at this point, I'm like, I need it. Keep giving it to me. But where we succeed is we're smart enough to buy gold and silver because we get out of the money. That's because they keep having to print it to pay the debt, to pay the interest on the debt. Forget just the interest, but you got to pay the debt off. Where are you getting money for the debt? You got $40 trillion. Where are you going to pay that? Well, we won't pay it off. Well, you're paying the interest. So who are you paying for the interest? And by the way, you owe China, Japan, and a lot of countries. That's who's buying your treasuries, or you're buying it yourself. So you're paying yourself back. And that's just 40 trillion in treasuries. There's another 60 or 80 trillion for your government employees, the Social Security, the interest on the debt, the Social Security and the government employees. I don't know which one I said. So you've got to pay all that. That's another $60 trillion you owe. You owe 100 trillion. You don't owe 40. 40 is just the T-bills that the other countries give you so you can print more money. You can't keep printing the money. The money's worthless. And this is every country except for the BRICS countries. So the euros, this is worthless because all the countries are doing the same thing. They're printing and printing and printing the euro, and in the UK and in Canada, and the money's worthless. And by the way, who else is going gold is Africa, the whole country. All the countries in Africa are going gold. So you got BRICS and you got that. So the demand for gold is that, and they're all getting out of the dollar because everybody realizes the formula that the idiot U.S. people are doing is printing the money, which not backed by anything, and you can't do it. You keep printing the money, it's worthless. So now you can see what's really happening. I like that video. I found it. I just go through YouTube and I find economic stuff for us. But that's what happens all over. They have the monopoly. Oops. Like the US, we're the reserve currency. But they made the mistake of not buying gold. The U.S. should be the one with 80,000 tons of gold, not China. Russia's got 30,000 tons, India with 30,000 tons. Why don't we have 30,000? We had the money. We could have bought 100,000 tons. No, we don't like gold. We're just going to be blind, and the dollar is it's the reserve currency, so we're fine until we're bankrupt because it isn't. Gold cannot be printed. If you understand the whole philosophy, gold can't be printed. It can't be inflated. It can't lose its value. We don't know what the real value of gold is, but it can't lose its value because it's been manipulated. So we don't know what the ounce of gold's really worth. My guess, 10,000 to 20,000 easily and conservatively. And so this is the problem. Why isn't the U.S. buying gold? Well, because we have the dollar and it's the reserve currency and da-da-da-da-da. And because they keep printing the dollar because it's a bunch of criminals who are corrupt running the government who just keep printing it. Well, let's put it into the stock market so it looks like we're doing good. and we'll buy the stocks before. Let's buy Amazon. Okay, now we'll put the money into Amazon after we've already bought it. Insider trading, totally illegal, totally corrupt, and totally worthless, because the money that you keep printing every month for roads, schools, all the government employees, all the pensions. Yeah, my buddy works at the DOD. There's all these people in Congress and the Senate and all their staff. Where are you getting the money from? Well, we're just printing it. And you don't think that's going to hurt the value. So now it becomes crystal clear what's going on. You thought you were a monopoly and you didn't understand the competition, and you don't understand China's got 80,000 tons of gold. You're fucked. We're all fucked by China and Russia and BRICS. And we ignored it. Well, it won't be anything. Yeah, it is. They're already on the gold standard in China and Russia. And all these, and Brazil's trading with China and Russia, soybeans, whatever the hell they make. And China buys the oil from Saudi Arabia or Iran in yuan, and Russia sells oil because they have oil. It's funny, China has no oil, Russia does. Russia has diamonds and gold and oil, and China has gold. They don't have oil, and neither does Japan or all those islands countries. They probably do if they would dig down far enough into the ocean. There's probably oil everywhere. That's why you don't have to worry about it being limited. It's not. It's only when these idiots do this war and close the Strait of Hormuz and close this other strait in the Red Sea, and all of a sudden the oil can't get to you. Although I think they can go backdoor around Africa, which will take longer, but still to get the oil there. So we're going to get fucked because our oil is going to cost more because these idiots are at war for no reason. There's no reason. Oh, it's because we're broke, so we got to steal it. Why haven't you been buying gold? It's like Madoff. When they arrested Madoff, the kids asked them, oh, we thought you had the assets in like gold and silver. And he didn't have any asset. He just had the money and he spent it all. He wasn't smart enough to buy gold and silver with all the money that he took. So for a con guy, he's pretty stupid, Madoff. And so this is the problem. So if that's what you need to do, why isn't the U.S. buying gold and silver? I mean, it's just insane. And then Bart Simpson sits there, the Secretary of Treasury. Well, I went to Fort Knox, and yeah, the gold's there. Which gold? Whose is it? Is it the U.S.'s or is it China's? And we all know if there's any gold in Fort Knox, it belongs to China because you sold it to them already. And so it's just, why aren't we buying gold? We're too stupid. We have morons running this country, and now we're broke. Thank you, morons. Just like the morons who ran the steel company, J.P. Morgan, the dumbest guy in the world, but he does believe in monopolies until there's competition. So this is good until everybody uses gold. Then it isn't. COMEX is good. They're all making money on it until people are asking for the gold delivery. And then COMEX blows up. And we got 2 days for that. That is your lesson today. Again, your baseball games, free pick. Boston, 3-unit, and the Dodgers, 2-unit are the free picks today. I have 2, 4, 6, 8. Who do we appreciate? Yesterday, huge day, 8 and 2, 14 units. Again, $25 if you want to bet baseball. $25 for the week. And you can see what I do, 8 to 10 games a day. Just break it into small chunks. But at the end of the day, we win 3, 4, 5 units most of the time. Football's coming up the end of August. We'll start. I'm almost done. I've ranked the teams kind of. So I went through coaches. I went through quarterbacks, looking at the team, the transfers. What do we do with Texas Tech? What do we do with Indiana? What do we do with Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia? So we're looking at all that. What do we do with it? How do we rank the team? Those teams you pretty much keep as A teams. So it's A or B, it's over or under, or Z. Z are the teams that can't beat a high school team. A are the Ohio States and Georgia, Indiana, and so you're looking at the spread, and you're trying to, oh, this is a terrible defense. That's why we do it. We want to bet against bad defenses. We want to bet on good defenses. That's really the key. The quarterback helps, the coach helps. So that's what we're doing. So we're almost done with college football as far as grading, and then I can fill in week 1. Hey, this is an A team with the 15 defense. This is a Z team with the 35 defense. And again, that's based on last year. We don't have anything for this year. And so we're careful with it. And then we go from there. And then we start adjusting to week 1 and week 2 and week 3. And we go, aha, okay, here's the team. Here's the teams we've adapted are good. These teams we thought were good are bad. These teams we're not sure of. We now get a little more of a feel. And you got to focus on the bigger games. The Texas-Ohio State game is what you then determine how good Texas is and how good Ohio State is. You can't really look at, a team, UCLA playing Notre Dame High School in California. You don't get anything out of it. But if they play like they play Hawaii, I think, or that, you get a good grip. And there's a big difference between playing Stanford and playing Ohio State. And you got to keep that in mind too. So we have all the assumptions and all the competition and all the variables that change. And that's why I talked variables. The U.S. steel was great until the variables changed, until Japan came out with a new furnace, didn't have to pay their union laborers, all that. So the union looks good until it doesn't, until competition comes in. And you got to understand, the U.S., you're competing with the rest of the world. This is competing with bricks and gold and silver, and it can't compete. This can't compete with gold and silver because you overprint it. It's like looking at, it's like this card. You can't compete with any of the cards now because it's got a guy named Mickey Mantle on it. You can't compete with that. Oh, there's Shotani. Yeah, I got Mantle. Thank you very much. I got you. I got the nuts, to call it that. Anyway, that's why people play poker and go to the casinos. They're trying to make money because they're losing their jobs or they don't make enough in their jobs. Hopefully they're smart enough, if they do make money, to buy gold and silver with it. Because even if you make $100,000 on the World Poker Tour, it's still in dollars. And that's why if you make money in stocks or Bitcoin, you're still in dollars. You need to get out of the dollars. And that's the key. Get out of the dollar. Once you have it, you've made a bet and you've won a lot of money. I know Titus, we made him 20 grand the other 2 years ago. He went 10 for 10 on my picks, made 20 grand. And I told him, put it in the gold. I tell Bobby when he gets his $1 million July 1st thing, Bobby Bowe, put it into gold and silver because it isn't worth anything. I think he listens. I know he listens to some point. I don't know all of his details, but I know he's bought a lot of silver and he throws it on the bed and rolls around in it. So I know he does that. But that's the key to it. If you are successful picking stocks, betting football games, playing poker, hitting a jackpot at the casino, on the stock market, on Bitcoin, take your profit and put it into gold and silver. You can't lose. It's impossible because it's limited. There's only 200,000 tons of gold. That's it. And there's more than, I would say, 5 to 10 million demand for the 200,000. And forget this option paper shit. It doesn't mean anything. All right. Time to eat. Behold, take care. Awas, I hope you're well. Pat, enjoy Singapore. Everybody else, have a great day. So football's, we're about a month away, July 22nd. Exhibitions should start like in a week or so. Usually like the beginning of August is the Hall of Fame game. And then you start getting into the 3 preseason games. And all this travel is just bullshit. You got to be careful. That's a variable that we have to understand is when these teams go to London, or here the Rams and the Niners are going to Australia. It's a big flight. It tires you out, and then you're going to fly back. So you're going to be mentally and physically tired from these trips. And so you have to realize that the next game, you got to be careful with these teams. So anyway, have a great day. www.teaserking.com. I hope you enjoyed the Steele story. It was very interesting to me because I live in Detroit, and you can just see what's happening. You get replaced. You're competing with the world, China, Japan, Germany. You're competing with them, and you can't compete. You have to realize that, and you have to make your changes. You have to adapt. You can't be a monopoly. Theoretically, they were a U.S. monopoly, but not a world monopoly. They were still competitive in the world, and the people running it ran it into the ground like a bunch of idiots. They got their money, and they fucked all their employees. The employees fucked themselves by not buying gold and not realizing what they were doing, and should have taken their money and then, invested it in gold and silver. Then they'd be fine. Like the attack on Wall Street guy. Take your 60 grand, buy gold, you'd be worth 150,000 at that time and not worry about the stock market. All I hear and see with most of it, and then I'll leave, everybody loses their money in the stock market. I don't know any time that you haven't. 1929, I think it was in the 60s, 87, 2000, 2008, everybody goes bankrupt. Except for moi, because I know it's a Madoff, and I don't play. I don't get blinded by I can make money in Amazon or NVIDIA. I realize I'm a much safer, better play in gold and silver. I have no risk in the portfolio. That's the key. It's very limited. So you're looking for very limited, highly demanded. Rolex, my man, Mantle cards. Even this card I think is cute. I don't know what the value is, but this is a beautiful card. It's called a Zenith Z Team. It's not the regular set. It's a other set, but it's a beautiful card. Now it's not going to have the same value as Mickey, but that's what you do. But you want to buy gold and silver. You want to buy Mantle cards and Brady cards, and you want to maybe a Rolex. Things that are very, very limited, but very, very highly demanded. The Picassos. I try to be cute and show the Picassos as my thumbnail. I did that yesterday. But that's what you want. That old Batman comic, the lady got 700,000 for. That's what you want. You're trying to get into those things. Why would you be in stocks? Are they limited? No. You get taxed on the dividends, and then when you pull it out, you get taxed. I don't pay tax. I don't know what I paid for it, and I don't know what it's worth, but I don't pay a nickel in tax. If it went from I paid $50 and now it's worth 50,000, I don't pay tax on that. Only if I sell it, then I might get a 1099. I think. I don't know how they treat the cards, but that's it. I mean, that's what you're trying to do is that's how you make money on your money. It's the only way. So right now it's gold and silver, and it's going to be hard to find, and it's about to be very expensive. So buy it today, tomorrow. That's it. 24th, you're fucked. You better get out. You better buy it before then. You can still buy it, but it's going to cost you a lot more. All right. Have a great day, everybody. www.teaserking.com. So we cover everything here. It's not just football betting, baseball betting. It's gold. It's economics. That's why today I just put Austrian economics. I didn't know where I was going to go. And feel free to ask questions. I might put the comments back on because I'm curious if people don't have time to read it, but they watch it and they want to add a comment. It'll give me flavor for what people want to talk about or that. So anyway, I might institute that again. Anyway, have a great day. Again, your free pick, Boston and the Dodgers. Enjoy that, and off we go. All right. Have a great day, everybody. Enjoy. Stay safe. Stay healthy. Buy your gold and silver. You got 2 days. Otherwise, it's going to be a lot more expensive. All right. Take care, everybody.